Welcome to the Saturday Football Show with me, Peter Martin, Alan Ruff and Ali Graham here with me as we approach half-time in the Scottish Premiership. We'll keep you up to date with all the goals in the lower leagues in Scotland and in the English Premier League as well. You can give us your view, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and right across our social media. Our reporters will keep you right up to date with events at the games in the Scottish Premiership, and we'll also get reaction from the managers. One game finished, the early kick-off at McDermott Park. It was, well, a game that Rangers had to win because the pressure's been mounting on Michael Beale after a disappointment in Europe and, of course, that defeat to Celtic in the Old Firm derby. Let's hear what happened with Adam Binney.
Full time here at McDermott Park. It has finished St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2 goals. Danilo and Matondo return Rangers to winning ways after Derby Day defeat. Danilo got that opening goal after 16 minutes when he headed in from James Tavernier's cross to notch his second goal for the Light Blues. Rangers then put the game beyond the reach of their opponents with 11 minutes to spare. That came through substitute Rabbi Matondo. The Welshman finished off a fantastic, incisive counter-attacking move when he got in the end of the ball from Tom Lawrence. Lovely through pass through to him, and there was Matondo to calmly roll the ball into the far corner. It was a slightly more encouraging second half performance from Stephen McLean's side, but their search for a first league victory of this season continues because it's all over here in Perth. It has finished St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2.
Okay, there's the positive message from it. The negative message is, Ruffy, that Danilo, in scoring that goal for Rangers to put them 1-0 up, has a fractured skull. He's been taken to hospital and it looks as if it's been described as a compound fracture, and he could be out for a while off the back of Todd Cantwell. Not great news for Rangers.
No, it isn't, and it's a bad injury, and I think Ali would have probably had one of the head knocks on me, but I had one. It was a fractured cheekbone. I was out for 6 weeks, and I think it depends on where the fracture is, because obviously your head on the ball. I think at one stage we saw McGregor wearing one of the headband things for months and months and months. So it's going to be a long time for them, and obviously losing Cantwell, and is a big miss for them. I think the only positive they had was I was impressed with the boy Lawrence when he came on. I thought he made a wee bit of different kind of style of player from Cantwell, but he was making passes left, right and centre.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matondo coming on and scoring. Matondo's goal was well taken, Ali.
As Alan said, it was Tom Lawrence. I think they missed him really badly last season. I think he'd been a big player for them this season. Peter, last season and this season, he's come back into the team. He spun in the halfway line, he found space, and it was a weighted pass, Ruffy. Tremendous pass into Matondo's stride, and he just put it in the bottom left-hand corner, so a great goal. So
it's all 3 points for Rangers. We'll hear from the Rangers manager shortly. Elsewhere, no goals between Celtic and Dundee. Hearts 1, Aberdeen 0. Killie 0, Hibernian 1, Motherwell and St Mirren has just, I think at this point, 0-0 in that game, so that's an interesting one to keep our eye on. And it's just half time there at Fir Park. We'll hear from our reporter there, and also Ross County 0, Livingston 0. We'll be live with Adam Binney hopefully at McDermott Park, and we'll hear from Michael Beale as well. But it was huge because he was red hot favourite with a lot of bookies to be in line for the sack, which is incredible. And it doesn't help when you're a manager and you're trying to tell your team what to do off the back of a situation where you've heard that maybe they've been sounding out another manager, in Graham Potter. Yeah,
I think it was very apparent when he came out this morning and said, I don't do walking away, because it just shows you, it doesn't matter who you are, the vibe's going about, you don't want to listen to them, but sometimes they get really through to you and you've got to react to them. So I think he knew today that it had to be a win. I don't think he would have. A defeat would have been hard for him to suffer, but I think at 1-0, I thought they were controlling the game. But we're getting into an area at 1-0 wouldn't have been enough, but they got the second goal, and the second goal got them to see the game out. But he'll certainly breathe a sigh of relief and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and we've been talking about it constantly, Ali, about the fact that as a Rangers manager or any manager, they want time. If you've put players together to get them to gel, sometimes you just don't get it.
Doesn't happen, Peter. As simple as that. I could tell you right now, Ruffy, watching the game, for that first goal to the second goal, there's a lot of Rangers fans biting their nails again because St Johnstone were never out yet. Kane had a couple of chances in the second half for them, but as Tom Lawrence puts the ball through to Danilo, obviously the Matondo, they obviously get the second goal and they get the 3 points, but there was a long periods in that game where at 1-0, it's no safe. You've got to put them away. As we've seen with Celtic against St Johnstone went to Celtic Park and drew 0-0 with them and put up the shutters, but today Rangers got the result, so Michael Beale will be really happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Half-time, Motherwell 0, St Mirren 0. Hearts leading by a goal to 0 against Aberdeen. I'm going to look at that game, Ruffy. We'll get a half-time report on it, but when you look at that match there, both managers desperately need something to kind of galvanise the sport, especially Aberdeen, because we were talking about it before we come on air. Aberdeen have got season tickets, record season tickets, and a great away support.
Yeah, well, that's the problem for Aberdeen. They've been shouting about it for the beginning of the season. They're not going to split Rangers or Celtic, but we're certainly giving out the vibes that we are now going to be the number 3rd force back again. We've bought this player, we've spent this money, we've got the structure for the training ground. Supporters are buying the season tickets. Everybody's Yahoo, let's go, and then all of a sudden, because of the European game, it just hasn't happened. So a lot of pressure on them. You know, I know Barry Robson's saying, "Oh, it's early part of the season," but when you said there, when you've got like 2,000 travelling supporters, sometimes they don't buy into that. So he really needs to try and get something out of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly 0, Hibs 1. I think we're all wondering what this next stage in the Hibs story is what's going to emerge from Nick Montgomery's team.
Well, you know that I kind of put that forward a few months ago. What a job he done in Australia. You know, yeah. I'm one of these guys that gets up in the morning and watches Australian football, Ruffy. You know, sad people that I am, but
usually Ruffy and I are coming back in at that point.
Of course, but no, just you know, and I know that Tam had played with under 21 football and things, you know, but. You know, you change, he's got experience now, he's a manager. There was no way they were going to win that league. That wasn't in the script, and they did. So I think Hibs have made the right appointment. Whether it's going to be with their players or whether it's going to be after January we get other players in, but it's a great start for him, although I do believe it was maybe going down as an own goal, so it doesn't really make any difference. The ball's in the net and it's 1-0 to Hibs at this current time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi to Sean, who's saying, come on Dundee, and he said, Ali just said, oh, Tam McManus has aged. Scathing, isn't it?
That's
scathing.
Terrible.
Anyway, if you want to post a message, you can do on our YouTube feed. You can hit the subscribe button. We've got all sorts of programmes, a variety of them this season that you can indulge in, from the football show Monday and Friday. Neil Lennon, of course, on the Monday. Lee McCulloch comes in with Ruffy and Tam and myself on the Friday. And let's not forget also, when you're looking at other programmes, there's the women's football show. There's Straight Talk, one-to-ones with special guests from football, entertainment, politics, you name it. I'll have them in the studio and they'll be telling their story. And we also have the journos as well, and we'll be featuring Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League football this season in a new programme coming up next week. So well worthy of you hitting that subscribe button, and right across our social media we've got fantastic figures. Thank you to everyone who's supporting PLZ Soccer. It's getting bigger and better as we move on. So with that in mind, James says it's a solid win for Rangers. I don't think there's any danger whatsoever of Rangers fans at this moment being unhappy. They wanted Rangers to bounce back. They did, and they got that 2-0 win. And we'll hear more from Michael Beale. We're going to hear from Stephen McLean shortly as well. Watching from Greece with a cocktail. Come on, the Hibs. So there's lots of people watching near and far on the programme. We're delighted to have you with us. Rangers defeating St Johnstone by 2-0. The half-time scores right across the board for you, with St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2, Celtic 0, Dundee 0, Hearts 1, Aberdeen 0, Kilmarnock 0, Hibernian 1, Motherwell 0, St Mirren 0, and Ross County against Livingston. That was a delayed kick-off, Ruffy, because of the bus struggling to get there. That's a strange one, isn't it?
It's a strange one, you know, in modern day. I mean, we all used to travel on a bus. I didn't mind travelling on a bus up to Aberdeen or whatever. You know, you used to get a good crack in the bus with the players, but modern day now, they usually go up the night before. I just think David Martindale's trying to send the signals out there that this club needs money, and it looks like another cutback, you know, to save money and overnight, you know, getting a bus travelling up there. And some players will like it, some players won't, but obviously I think it broke down.
In the Championship, as Arbroath 2, Airdronians 0, Dundee United 1, Morton 0, Queen's Park 0, Dunfermline 0, and Raith Rovers 0, Inverness Caledonian Thistle 0. Your boys get a good win.
Certainly did. You know, I definitely thought at the start of the season, Ayr United, who were having a good start, and Morton were having a good start, would be up there challenging that 4th, 5th and 6th. Aberdeen, Ayr have had a horrendous time.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, the result that they've had right at the start. The players that he brought up for down south, they looked really strong. Obviously Aidan McGeady going there. I thought this is going to be the year. They're really going for it this year, but the results haven't been there. And don't take any away from Partick Thistle. Okay, a bad result against Queen of the South last week in the Trust Cup, but to go down to Ayr, there's not many people who go down to Ayr and win 4-0.
Yeah, absolutely. That's in the Championship. Scottish League 1, it's Annan 1, Stirling Albion 0, Cove Rangers 1, Kelty Hearts 2. Nothing between Falkirk and Queen of the South. No goals there. No goals in the Hamilton and Alloa match. Montrose 4, Edinburgh City 0. That's emphatic at half time. League 2, East Fife 1, Clyde 0, Elgin City 1, Dumbarton 0, Forfar 1, Spartans 2. No goals between Peterhead and Bonnyrigg Rose, and Stenhousemuir 2, Stranraer 0. That's how it looks right across the board in the 4 divisions in Scotland. We'll be going to our reporter Adam at McDermott Park shortly. As far as the English Premier League is concerned, one final score from the early kick-off. It was Wolves 1, Liverpool 3. Elsewhere, Aston Villa 0-0 with Crystal Palace, Fulham 0-0 with Luton, Man United 0, Brighton 1, Tottenham 0, Sheffield United 0, and West Ham United 1, Manchester City 0 at the moment. What a scoreline that is. Not many would have predicted at half time. The Hammers in front against City. Just an indication of the great job that David Moyes is doing there. And James Ward-Prowse, since signing, certainly settled in well and scores the only goal of the first half. So they're leading by a goal to 0. What about the overall game and how it's all panned out up there at McDermott Park? Well, let's hear from Stephen McLean, hopefully at some point on that defeat. A disappointing one for him, and the St Johnstone manager clearly wants to try and somehow get this side away from the bottom end of the table.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've always said we're going to get better as we go on. We've got 11 new signings, so we're going to improve. So no, there's certainly enough to work with. I think I was probably concerned at the start of the season, but I think with the group that I've got together now, I think we keep working hard and we keep improving, we'll be fine this season.
Miyagi,
yeah,
chopsticks.
I think it's a difficult one for Stephen McLean. I don't know where he's going to get the goals from, Ali.
No, he's struggling. I think we were in here a couple of weeks ago and we were talking about he said he was going to change it all. He said he wasn't relying on his more experienced players anymore, and he's trying his best. You think we go into Celtic Park a couple of weeks ago, in a 0-0, solid at the back. You think that'd have give the players a lift, but they just can't seem to score goals. I seen Stevie May come on again as a substitute later on, but they don't. A guy missed a chance, a young boy missed a chance. I can't mind his name, Peter, at the back post with a header to make it 2-1. But apart from that, I couldn't see them scoring today. It was very comfortable for Rangers today, but at 1-0 it's never comfortable, Ruffy, until they got the second goal.
Yeah, the only thing I would say that is probably the win again if you're a manager at the top end of the table. The only thing I would say though, Ruffy, when you look at the overall table, I mean that's the worry for St Johnstone is, it's all right saying, okay, you get a free hit against a Rangers or a Celtic, and they've already had a good performance against Celtic, but it's the other clubs that you need to get them against.
Well, they'll be looking at, I think their 2 targets would be Ross County and probably Livingston. I think Motherwell and St Mirren have proved this year they're not going to be hanging about at the bottom all season. They're going to be sort of looking upwards rather than backwards. So they'll be looking obviously at the fixtures of when are these games coming round, the Ross Counties and that, and hopefully they can pick up points there. But as Ali said, doesn't matter who you are, if you're not scoring goals, you don't look as if you're scoring goals. The wee boy Carey was throwing some terrific balls into the box, but no presence at all. That one header, I think it was that young boy McPherson that had it. He maybe should have put his head through it. But that's it. There's no shots for 18 yards. There's nobody going by anybody. There's nobody, doing anything special. It's just sort of a limitations, let's get through the game, and if we get something, we get something.
Yeah, that's what you have to ask, Peter. I mean, it takes them that long to get into the game. Is that the game plan then? Is it to keep it at 1-0 for as long as possible, Ruffy, and then maybe the last 10 minutes have a go?
Yeah, well, it didn't work out for him today, and he's certainly going to have to be more positive and find goals when they come up against clubs that are going to be in and around that bottom end of the table, and St Johnstone propping up the table as we speak at this moment. Ali says, Ruffy, I'm glad you're safe after your holiday experience, which is, it's nice that people,
Yes.
obviously are worried about you, Ruffy, to be perfectly honest with you. And obviously you're the housewife's favourite, so lots of people were obviously crying into their handkerchiefs, hoping that you were going to be okay, and we were absolutely delighted to hear that you're okay. And of course, I think as we mentioned before, all our sympathies and prayers and thoughts go out to all the people who have suffered great loss out there in Morocco and in Libya as well. Let's try and get to McDermott Park, where our man Adam Binney is there. Adam, job done for Michael Beale, get the win. That was all that he wanted, never mind overall performance. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that that's all the manager Michael Beale would have wanted. He was pleased. Just speaking to him a moment ago, but I'm not sure that's what the fans would have wanted, Peter. I said before this game that I think Rangers needed a performance and not just a result today. 3 points in a league setting is all that really matters, but I think in this country you need a little bit more than that. Rangers today were underwhelming again. I thought it were pedestrian and slow at times. Again, 2 great goals and they walk home with 3 points, but I just think Michael Beale and the Rangers fans would have been expecting a bigger performance to try and alleviate a little bit of that pressure on the manager.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say overall on this, performance, yep, you'd like to see them playing good football, but they get the points in the bag. The downside to it all, Adam, is that the injuries are mounting up, and that's the last thing the manager wants when suddenly, he's got 4 home games, Europe on the horizon, and the last thing you want is to lose somebody like Danilo.
Yeah, well, I think in the next 10 days, Rangers are going to be playing in 3 different competitions, as you said, in those 4 matches. You need a huge squad for that. I think he's actually cursed himself. The manager said prior to this match that he's got a clean bill of health, and that's quite rare for a Rangers manager. He was correct, but now if you look at it, Danilo is now injured, fractured cheekbone today. Borna Barisic still chasing his fitness. So I think once you take these players out, especially players like Danilo, when you've spent so much money on them, and he looked bright in that first 15 minutes, it does become a little bit of a worry. But I think that's why Rangers have such a big squad. That's why teams like Rangers and Celtic spend the big bucks to make sure they have players in reserve should these injuries occur.
And of course, just before we go, Adam, the other key issue here is the flip side of all this is St Johnstone are propping up the Scottish Premiership at the moment. Can't see where they're getting goals. What's the overall feeling you get from the Saints fans and, of course, the players that you've been listening to in the after-match press conference?
Well, I actually think that the mood in Perth just now is probably a little bit more positive than what you would think. That second half, particularly the first 20-25 minutes of that second half performance, what was a positive performance from St Johnstone. They had a couple of little chances, the one where Chris Kane just misses it with his head. Castello had a chance at the back post as well. So they were okay today, but I think you're right, it looks really worrying in terms of the number of goals scored. They've only managed to score in 1 of the Scottish Premiership fixtures so far this season. Those 2 goals both came in the same game against Dundee, and frankly I was at that match. They were really, really lucky to escape with a draw that day. They should have lost that match. So, Stephen McLean, I was just speaking to him there, he feels that his squad are improving with each week, and he's not worried at all. He thinks his team will be fine. They had a big boost today. Chris Kane, first start in a long, long time for him up front. I think he does make a big difference and makes him look sharper in that final third. But having only scored 2 goals when you're 5 games into a season, I think they could struggle.
Thanks to Adam up there in Perth, doing a sterling job for us. And if you want more from Adam, he'll be right across our social media throughout the day, and there'll be more from Michael Beale across our social media channels if you want to pick up on Facebook, Twitter, of course TikTok, and of course Instagram too, and on our YouTube channel. We're here till 6 o'clock. What about Tynecastle? Big game, Hearts against Aberdeen. Patrick Mullen.
Hibs here at Tynecastle Park, and it's Aberdeen 0, Harder Midlothian 1. The only goal of this one coming in the 13th minute when Leon Boyce played in Utaro Oda. He looked like he had taken one too many touches, Oda, on the right hand side, but he managed to get his shot away, and it just deflected off James McGarry past Keela Roos into the back of the net. It's been an incredibly fast paced and feisty occasion in the opening first 45 minutes here. We had 4 yellow cards in just the opening 30 minutes, and let's hope that continues here in the second half. But at the break, it's Aberdeen 0, Hearts 1.
Okay, and it looks as if it's well sunny there in Edinburgh. He looks as if he's getting burnt, Ruffy. Patrick, enjoying himself there.
Yeah, he's got all the equipment with him, but have you seen his wee bag, the wee man bag he's got? Has everything in it.
Yeah.
He's not got any problems.
No, absolutely. He's doing a great job for his Ruffy.
I don't know about the makeup. But
yeah, well, I don't think anybody in their right mind with red hair would not have anything less than factor 50 on Ali, to be perfectly honest with you. David Finlay says, I'm a well fan on holiday in Benidorm here. I love the show, always great chat. Some points for us would be a boost with the Old Firm coming up, and of course, what a start it's been for Mullen.
As Ruffy said earlier on, Peter, it's you know, you're thinking Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen are going to be up there kind of some sort of a challenge against the Old Firm, but it's St Mirren and Motherwell. I mean, this is where it all started for Stuart Kettlewell against St Mirren when he first came in. Got a positive result, and he'll be looking for another positive one today. So he's done an absolutely fantastic job. And you know, when managers are doing a good job, other teams seem to, you know, when they sack their managers, Motherwell fans don't want Stuart Kettlewell getting mentioned with anybody else, Ruffy, because he's doing that good a job. So I think it's magnificent. Don't get me wrong, there's still that wee group of hard games that they're going to come up against, but if he can get points, especially at Fir Park against the Old Firm, then he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Here's Sean, who's asked a great question, guys, which you can debate yourselves. How many managers do you think will lose their job in the Scottish Premiership this season? Remember, we had 8 in total in the Premiership last season, and Jack Ross was gone after 7. Lee Johnson's gone at this point from Hibernian, so he's been the first casualty. Ruffy?
I don't think there'll be as many this year, because obviously there's the ones that have come in are just settling in. You're obviously looking at Rangers, you know, but I expect Rangers to pick up. I think once they get the players back, they'll start getting the results. So I would say Celtic safe, Rangers safe, Aberdeen, Barry Robson safe, Hibs, new manager, you know, Hearts.
Do you think
a lot of rumblings at Hearts, you know. I know they're winning just now, but they haven't. The last 3 games they haven't scored. They haven't had a good season start, and I think if a few results went that way, he might come under a wee bit of pressure. Apart from that, I don't think Malcolm Mackay and all them are safe.
It could be a wee bit more, because Hearts they'll get rid of 3 managers, won't they? So that'll be 3 right away.
Absolutely.
I don't know. But I mean, Barry Robson, for instance, you mentioned them, they're safe. I mean, if they get beat today, I know it's early on, and by the way, it's funny how, Peter, as well, when you're sitting at the foot of the table and there's only 4 games into the season, the managers will say, and see when you're sitting at the top, well, we're only 4 games into the season, so it's great to get points on the board early on, as you know, because if you start getting into that losing habit, you can't get out of it.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, it's as you just heard from Patrick, it's really a game where the 2 teams are no quarter given. Feisty is the way he summed it up. Second half, is there going to be a comeback from Aberdeen? We will keep you right up to date with that. Celtic Dundee 0-0 at the moment, Ruffy, and again, if anything, if we're talking about managers that want to get some time, he certainly bought himself some time, Brendan Rodgers, on the basis of winning the Old Firm game, but I think the real test of Brendan Rodgers is coming this week away in Rotterdam against Feyenoord. It's 0-0 at the moment against Dundee, so he wants to make sure that they don't have any slip-ups after winning a Glasgow derby.
No, you're right, you know, and just before I move on to the European one, this game in particular, he can't afford this to end up nothing each. You know, they need to get a win here. They need to get the supporters back on board, because I think Celtic supporters are used to having 2-0 each at Parkhead. So, you know, I said to you, I think this year is going to be harder, because I think now the teams, I think Celtic are a very, very good side, but I think now up front they're predictable. They get the ball wide, you know, they fly balls into the box for Maeda. Teams like St Johnstone and Dundee are now very, very well organised. They get everybody behind the ball. I think Celtic got the ball wide there, and the time to get in the box was about 8 or 9 Dundee players in there. And I remember we went to see Barcelona, and everybody was wondering how they're going to handle Messi. Well, what Celtic did was they just bottled everything in the middle and said, well, if you're going to score against us, you'll have to fire something in. And it worked right into Celtic hands, and I think that's what's happening now with teams like Dundee and St Johnstone. Now they're going there knowing they can't win the game, but they're going to make it really difficult for Celtic to break them down. I know it's hard when you're 90 minutes and you're chasing the game. All you need is one mistake and they'll latch onto that, so they'll be hoping that happens today.
Yeah, just a quick update on Danilo. He picked up a compound fracture. Let's hear what Michael Beale had to say.
They lose one to concussion, and it looks like, well, I know he's fractured his cheekbone, Danny, so we'll have to see how long he's out for, but he's got a fracture on his face there and he's away, and hopefully will be operated on this evening. So it's a really disappointing moment for the team, that, because obviously, you know, with Danny's had a couple of bits going on, he's had this 2 weeks to get himself fit and goes and scores, and it was a real big moment for him to get the injury at the top.
Yeah, that is a blow, and just picking up that injury at that time, especially when you get the goal. Okay, we'll keep you right up to date with what's happening in the other match, because Celtic will be desperately hoping they can get the points. They've got a penalty in that match at Celtic Park, so if they convert it, we'll tell you all about it, but it's still 0-0 there. Hibs with the all-important away goal at the moment, Ruffy, we were talking about it, and it's an OG, albeit I think Nick Montgomery will say, who cares?
No, he certainly won't, you know, and on the back of the 2-0 at Aberdeen, which I personally didn't see coming, but they got it. The new manager coming in, it's a new voice at the training ground, it's a new voice in the dressing room, you know, players will want to impress. Good start getting the own goal, and I think with Kilmarnock, you know, I said this at the beginning, Kilmarnock's struggling for goals. You know, we all know it's hard to go there and hard to play in, but they don't seem to be able to get that second goal or even the first goal sometimes. So I think if Hibs can keep it at 1-0, you know, the pressure's all on Kilmarnock. Yeah, and David Turnbull has scored from the penalty spot for Celtic in their match, so they've got that lead, and I think that's the key to trying to basically get them, you know, relaxed, because the longer it was going on at McDermott Park, there was pressure. The longer it goes on at Celtic
Absolutely,
Park.
Peter, and Ruffy mentioned it earlier on there. I mean, Tony Docherty would have watched the St Johnstone game and looked how they set up. See if he can get his players in after the international break. They've got 2 full weeks, Ruffy, to work on their shape, and it's frustrating as a player. But as Ruffy rightly said, one wee lack of concentration there. The guy dives in just inside the box. And I didn't see how he fouled, but obviously Celtic get the penalty kick and Turnbull slots it away. Now, they need to try and open up a wee bit now, and this is when it becomes a different game, because they have to try and equalise, and when they open up, Celtic will find more gaps and hopefully score our goal.
Yeah. I can tell you there's a goal for St Mirren. It's Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1. Scott Tanser has scored in that match, Ruffy.
That's a fantastic goal, obviously, for a full-back position. You know, Scott Tanser, I've always been a big admirer of him, gets forward at every opportunity. He didn't score that many goals, but that game we didn't know which way that was going to go, you know, so it's heads up to St Mirren right away, and it's all on Motherwell now.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was going to be the game of the afternoon.
Oh, you know why I'm laughing, don't you? Because that build-up suit kettlewell there, didn't I? I mean, obviously, St Mirren got up the park and scored, Ruffy, you know, that's where I am.
I've done that before, don't worry about that.
Absolutely, you do. You could, but I think out with, I mean, you can't even say out with the top 2. At times, I mean, predicting the last set of games, Ruffy, was now on impossible. I think you not get a 13 at one point in our predictor over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I got a couple, but obviously the point structure and the predictions changed now, so it's hard to get 21, 24, but certainly, yeah, I think it is, you know, particularly the correct scores. You know, you might think, you know, this is the way it's going to go, but certainly I think there's still a lot to play for in that Motherwell game. I think they'll have something to say in that.
Yeah, okay, so in the Scottish Premiership, St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2 is how it finished up there at McDermott Park. 2 goals for Rangers on the day, a good win. The blow is Danilo, who scored the first one, picked up a compound fracture. He's in hospital. Matondo scored the second one to give them all 3 points. Celtic have just scored from the penalty spot to lead 1-0 against Dundee. David Turnbull scoring the goal. He was out of favour. He was out of favour with Ange Postecoglou, suddenly in favour with Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, and again, I put my foot in it early on. You know, when I was talking about him, I thought, I like him. He's a kind of midfield player that gets run about the 18-yard box. He's not frightened to have a shot. Maybe shoots far too often, but at least he's taking the opportunity. I just don't think he's a Hatate. I think he gives you something, but I think Hatate gives you more. I think he gives you a wee bit quality, Hatate, you know, to open up defences. I think Turnbull, what you see is what you get. You get 100%, you get him driving forward, but I just don't think he's got that wee technical quality that Hatate's got.
Yeah, and they're in negotiations with Hatate for a new contract, which I think they're trying to protect their investment.
Absolutely. I mean, you need him, especially coming back into Europe. I don't think it's a criticism, Ruffy. I think Turnbull's a tremendous player in the SPL, but he goes into Europe, him and O'Reilly in the same midfield. I don't think they've got the same workmanship. I don't think they can work back as well as when Hatate's in the team. And I think they really need him back in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does on his return. This is the Saturday Football Show. Ali Graham and Ruffy with me here, Peter Martin. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button, tell your friends, share it with your friends, and you will be open to all sorts of good programming concerning Scottish football and beyond. We'll be starting our European football special coming up next week, looking at the Champions League, the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, and we will also bring you Women's Football Show, straight talk with myself interviewing a number of people from football and entertainment right across the board. Billy Sloan is the, well, for me, music's best journalist in Scotland, and certainly his experiences over 40 years. Incredible the amount of people he's interviewed, superstars all across the globe, and he shared some of the stories of interviewing some of those megastars who've been playing at the top of rock music for the last 40 years. Well worth a listen. Billy's a great lad, and the patter was magnificent, Ruffy. He's still going strong.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there, the interviews. You know, I don't think people will realise, you know, the people that he has interviewed. I think he's got a show late on at the weekends that I listen to if I'm coming back for a dinner or something like that, and some of the interviews is great, and he's so he reminds me of the Hugh McDonald of football. He seems to have interviewed everybody, you know, that's been everybody, you know, and he's got the contacts and he's got, you know, the big interviews, and it's certainly worthwhile listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
I watched that interview, Peter, and I found it really, I thought it was mesmerising, because it was, when I think of him, I think of the time when I was going to see the Clash at the Apollo, Sharp 69, all the groups coming through, and it was always him. It was writing for all the music magazines at the time, so I thought it was really fascinating. Great stuff.
Absolutely. Billy, well worth watching. As far as Scottish football is concerned, we've got the show Monday and Friday, and we've also got the Women's Football Show, and we've got a fly in the studio, Ruffy, and there's nowhere for it to go, and you, in your infinite wisdom, punched me on the arm just to try and get rid of it, but I think that was just a ruse to punch me on the arm. To be
I think I tried to push you to the wrong bit, because it just sort of volleyed off you. There's been a bit of muscle in it.
I hate to say it. I don't want to
You've got it on tape as well.
I know.
You've got it on tape. You'll give me a call next week, Ruffy.
I don't want to offend anybody who, obviously, in this world, Ruffy, you know, some people wait to professionally be offended. No flies have been harmed lately because we can't get them. We need to buy one of those. You need to buy one of those zappers. Or the zapper the tennis bats, Ruffy. Yes. I've been practicing my backhand with them.
With the zapper,
you know, right across the board. But I'm sure there's someone out there who obviously talks about flies and wants to protect them. Manchester United 0, Brighton 2, Ali, what do you make of that? Ten Hag suddenly, listen, if the kind of a sparkle has gone from Michael Beale, it's certainly gone from Ten Hag.
I think we were speaking about earlier on the Premiership managers that are going to be, you know, getting the sack or whatever. I mean, honestly, before Christmas I'm going for Ten Hag. McTominay's back in there as well today.
Yeah.
Back in, so not great stuff. Great.
I can't work out, Ruffy, I genuinely can't work out. Manchester United, since Sir Alex Ferguson, have just gone through manager after manager, and amazingly, the one with the best record is Mourinho.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it tons of times. You know, Man United were the sort of a Galactico. You know, every year they had to sign somebody that was different for everybody else, and then I thought this new boy coming in would change that. I think he was going to be more of a team manager, somebody who would buy players that would suit the team game, but it doesn't seem to change. Every time you read something about Man United, you know, it's all about an individual falling out with the manager. I was reading who's the boy, is it Sancho?
Yeah, Sancho.
He's now falling out with him. He's now been told he can't train with it because he can't get his act together and he's not fit enough, and then the boy's coming back saying I'm fit enough. So there's something going on behind the scenes, and there's something just that this boy seems to. If he doesn't like you, then doesn't matter who you are, you're gone.
Is it a case of is it fair to say they're one of the biggest clubs in the world, Manchester United?
Yep.
Is it maybe Mourinho's ego matched that? Nobody else can match it. And also as well, Peter, I mean, Phil Jones, who's still there by the way, has picked up 15 million quid. 15 million quid in wages with a 6-year contract, and he's played 6 games.
Yeah.
The money is just
I wish
crazy.
I was Phil Jones, Ruffy. Yeah. I mean,
Phil Jones, I could even handle being Maguire.
Yeah.
You can have all you can have all the go. You can say whatever you like about me.
300 grand a week.
300 grand a week.
You can handle that, he's a big lad.
Well, absolutely, and I have to say at times I think some of the personal stuff on him, and he has had an absolute battering on social media from people who just, they make that their life's mission, is just to make people's life a misery. But listen, he's made mistakes, he holds his hands up, he's a big enough boy to actually, say if he's made a mistake, then he'll hold his hands up and say, I've got it wrong. But he's not the worst of them at Manchester United, and I think a number of people, and I think Martin Keown made a great point, it's not Harry Maguire that's the problem at United, it's midfield allowing them to run onto centre halves, not picking up runners. There's so many other problems across the board there at United. But I can tell you Dundee United 1, Greenock Morton 1, are both 2, Airdrieonians 0, Queen's Park 0, Dunfermline 1, and Wraith Rovers 0-0 with Inverness. It's a great league, the Championship this season, isn't it?
It is. Well, everybody was thinking Dundee United going to run away with it, but I mean that score as it stands just now will be a blow. I definitely thought Dunfermline were going to be the team. I thought Dunfermline had got their act together. I think they've got a tremendous support, a tremendous stadium as well, a good travelling support, big addition to the league, bringing like 3,000 and 4,000 supporters. So a win for them today might just start their season.
Ruffy, what do you think of Nick Ball? Because obviously it started now. It's Hibs 2-0 up against Kilmarnock. Yeah. We might as well we've got to get a tag for it, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, he's went in there. I mean, everybody talks about a new manager. You get a wee spin off it, and he certainly got it. I liked the way he was talking, whether he fulfills, the way he's talking. He wants to give the young players at Hibs a chance. I mean, we have had Tam McManus in here last year saying that Hibs have 3 or 4 young players on the horizon. I think they played in a European competition and they were outstanding, but never given the chance by Lee Johnson. So be interesting to see, what kind of way they go down, but certainly getting a win today, just a great start.
I think one thing as well, Ruffy, it's really apparent with Hibs, they lose a lot of goals for set plays. Their defending's terrible.
Well, he's taken Paul Hanlon out of it.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's guys there.
In.
They've done their they've served their time at Hibs. They've been there a long time. It's time to let somebody else come in. Younger guys to come through, as you say. I think if he can get on top of that and maybe stop goals against, it gives him a chance because he can score up there around the park. They've got good strikers.
Yeah, absolutely. We're obviously midway through the second half in most of the games, apart from obviously Ross County, which had a delayed kick-off because of the bus struggling to get there. Kyogo's added number 2 of the afternoon, I think. That, as they say, is that.
Yeah, I spoke about it earlier. You can defend all you like. Takes a lot of you, for defenders, to put in a shift, and I keep talking about all the time. Celtic again, although it's 75% possession, which means you're running the boot quite a lot if you've not got the ball. But it's certainly,
Thanks for that, Ruffy.
Yeah, but certainly Dundee haven't been utilising when they've got the ball. They seem to have been just handing it back to Celtic, and as the game goes on, players get tired, gaps start to appear, and good players start looking for their gaps, and certainly Kyogo's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Cudjoe has been sent off for Dundee United. Now, he is a player that I like. Really good skill, low centre of gravity, lovely player, but he's got a red card, Ali.
Well, Morton have equalised. So, it's put the hinks on it again, didn't we, by saying, I've actually took our both to struggle in that league this season, and Dick's obviously heard it and he's went, is that right, Bingen? So he's turning up every week and winning. So I think they're still 2-0 ahead just now. I fancied the Dundee United, like you, Ruffy, to run away with it, but I did mention that if Jim didn't get off to a good start, then the fans up there, the fan power would dictate what happened to him. But if he's getting sent off there, Morton are going to have their tails up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking here, Ruffy. I know we're on the Predictor, but Kelly, I've got to go back. What did you have for that in your Predictor?
Well, I'm already up. I've got Rangers 2-0. So
I've got that too. Yeah, same here.
Kilmarnock and
Ruffy, don't, while you're pondering, goal for Hearts, Liam Boyce has scored. What do you make of that?
I've got 2-0 Hearts, which I'm quite happy about. That I said, okay, they hadn't scored in three games, but sometimes you get through that kind of pattern in your game. But certainly at home, you would expect them to show, the ambition to go ahead there. And obviously with Nazy there, he's now dictating things, and you would like to think that the players now exactly know who's making the decisions. So at 2-0, it's a great result for Hearts.
It seems to be continuing at Tynecastle for Aberdeen, doesn't it? I mean, it's about 10 or 11 games now.
Yep.
They've no win there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, Ruffy. I've got a draw between Kelly and Hibs, so they've got to go back, Kelly. And I've got a draw between Hearts and Aberdeen, but it looks a long way away right now.
Yeah, but I think I've got Hearts 2-0. The only one I sat in the fence with was Motherwell and St Mirren.
Yeah,
I think I went for a draw in that one.
Yeah, I've gone for Motherwell to win that, but it's looking as if, again, Stephen Robinson's going to come back there and haunt his old team unless Motherwell can get their act together and get something back in that match. Don't forget, you can hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. We'd be delighted if you could join us Saturday afternoon, just giving you the scores, and we'll get reports from the reporters out at the matches. Over and above that, we'll also have managers and players reacting after the game, which is always good. And across all our social media, if you download the app, then you've got all the breaking news at your fingertips. And the main news at the moment is quite simply that Rangers have suffered a blow with, of course, the hospitalisation of Danilo. He scored the goal, picked up a compound fracture, and he's going to need quite a lot of care, quite a lot of time out. That's a blow off the back of the Cantwell news of his injury. So Michael Beale has got a few worries before they get ready for the midweek football in Europe.
It's a shame for him because he's bided his time, he's got himself fit. As Ruffy says, he's put his head in, but it hurts, he's got his goal. But obviously you don't want him to get injured. He doesn't want to get injured. Now Beale has a problem because he's got his goal, his big signing scored. And he doesn't know what's happened. Then all of a sudden the stretcher goes on, he gets stretchered off, and he's not got the guy that just scored the goal for him. So that's a shame, a real shame for him. But it's big problems for Beale as well, because he then has to find who's going to step up and score the goals for Rangers, which they've been struggling to do the last wee while, especially going into Europe.
3-0 for Celtic, Matt O'Reilly.
Yeah, I think anybody who goes to Parkhead and tries to play Celtic, if you sit in and defend well, you might at the end of the day get away with something, but generally 9 times out of 10 they wear you down, and gaps, as I said, start appearing, and the big players come up with big goals. And I said yesterday, I think it was, I was really interested in how Dundee would set themselves out there, because beginning of the season, a team like Dundee don't want to be going to Parkhead and coming away and get beaten 5 and 6-0. So I think he's trying to do part A, but now he has to protect part B. He can't afford goals to be flying in all over the place.
Yeah, but a good bonus for Celtic ahead of that match against Feyenoord.
Absolutely, and the main scorers as well. With O'Reilly getting in, which we praised St Johnstone getting the draw there a couple of weeks ago. They sat and behind the ball, but realistically, if Matt O'Reilly had taken his chances, Ruffy, I think he could have had a hat-trick. So it'll be interesting to see what his goal was today, whether it was a shot for inside the box, or... I just think he caresses the ball well. He doesn't put his foot through it, Peter. I think he tries to place things. And I think there's times when Turnbull does the same thing. He cuts in and he really fires the ball into the net, as a midfielder. So get into the game in Europe, yes, a good boost. But
how do you think they are this season, Ali?
I think they need to be more defensive. Under Brendan Rodgers, I think in the past in Europe, they've tried to go out and play their same football, go and attack teams. I don't think they should be doing that. I think they should be sitting in a wee bit more, and even as we spoke earlier on, Scales maybe sitting in at left back for a bit of height, maybe a wee bit more kind of defensive bulk, with balls coming into the box. I think would be a great idea, but he's the man, so he picks the team. Celtic are always going to have pace up the other end of the park with Maeda and Kyogo. They're always going to have pace in the break. But I just fear for them at the back. I just fear that they're not played together enough there's too many new signings in there, and they're going up to play obviously top class quality.
Yeah, the only other thing I think, Ruffy, is when you look at, I mean, Kyogo's great because he runs off the last shoulder of defender, sometimes sneaks in the blind side, and the one thing that is a problem is that if he's not there or they can't get any result out of Kyogo finding the net, plan B is I haven't seen any real sparkle that suggestion that he's the man. You need something else, I think.
Yeah, and I said that's the problem. I'm not criticising them that they're predictable. It's the strength that they have at getting the ball wide and firing it into the box. But when that's not working, or when you come up against really good sides who are going to analyse your success and how you are, they like to get the ball wide and they like to get the ball in, but the ball's on the deck. It's not up there for a big Ali Graham to come in.
Yeah.
You know, so teams are now saying, well, let's just defend that area round about Kyogo's feet and defend round about the striker. So that's going to nullify him a bit. But at this level, he's a yard and a half ahead of everybody. You know, he sees the pass before it. He makes the runs, the good runs that get him goals. But you've got to have that difference, that big ball into the box, that somebody batting somebody a bit. And sometimes I don't think Celtic have got that at this moment.
Peter, I think they've really missed Giakoumakis as he left. I think he was a guy that could come on and done that.
Yeah.
I don't see it with you. I agree with Alan. I don't see that at all with him, and I'm not convinced. Giakoumakis obviously wanted to play regularly and had to move, but he was a bustling guy who could score goals as well, Ruffy, so I think they've really missed him.
Oda and Boyce have scored for Hearts and they're absolutely bossing it at Tynecastle against this Aberdeen side, and I think that will certainly, heap the pressure on Barry Robson, because that honeymoon period is well and truly over.
Yeah, big travelling support as you mentioned. What are they going to react with at the end of the game? We'll probably find out with whoever's at the game. Is it Patrick?
Patrick's there.
So no, it's no good, and I don't know, Ruffy. I just think he could be under pressure. So I do. I know it's early,
but
it's Aberdeen.
But they have backed him. Dave Cormack has given him some funds.
Yeah, absolutely. So he has to get a win. He has to get up and running, and he's not managed that.
Yeah, I just think I thought I tipped him for third. I tipped him for third, Ruffy. I mean, right now, you know what it's like sometimes. Sometimes, we all made a guess. It was guesswork at the end of the transfer window. I tipped them for third, and I thought Livingston might, along with St Johnstone, just run out of steam this year.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with Livingston, and but I'd throw Dundee into that hat. I think Dundee have had a good start, no doubt, but I think they're going to be down there most of the way as well. They're going to have to just fight their way out of it. I can't see them being out of the bottom three very often, but as far as Aberdeen's concerned, everybody was cock-a-hoop about the appointment. Everybody was a fresh guy coming in. They seemed to just tell it as they see it, a wee bit David Martindale, in these press conferences were good. But at the end of the day, you've got to get results. You've got to start winning games, and certainly the players that he's brought in. You've got the wee boy Clarkston and some of the two boys up front. We're not even talking about them.
No.
Well, you mentioned them. They were absolutely fantastic last year, and not a mention of any of the two of them.
Duke's disappeared.
Yep.
His form's dipped terribly.
Yeah, and it's dipped actually when you look at it in the European games, because there's big chances for them, him especially in the European games, and it just didn't materialise for him. And I thought there was a real chance of Aberdeen getting into the Europa League, and they blew it big time.
I think that's set them back a good bit. I think they've lost a lot of confidence for that, Peter, up there, especially against the Swedish team. Was it Häcken?
Yeah.
I just think that they've lost a lot of confidence for that, and it'll be interesting to see what the supporters are like the day after that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Man United 0, Brighton 3 is the scoreline. There are some scorelines, Ruffy, I might as well suggest to you right now. There are some scorelines that get managers a sack. 3-0 at home at Old Trafford to Brighton, and by the way, if you look at Manchester United's budget in comparison to Brighton, there is a huge gulf there.
Yeah, apart from Spurs this year, I think Brighton have been the breath of fresh air. I think the results they've had have been fantastic. I watched the highlights of a game, and obviously they've got a lot of foreign players in the team. Not a lot like ready-made names that would roll off, he plays for him or he played for there. So they've got a right team ethic there, and they're going about their business properly. If we're talking about fans being unhappy, Man United's not a place at home you would want to hear the fans having something to say about it.
And is Billy Gilmore starting today, Peter? Is he,
that's a big question, actually. I must look at that.
Up against McTominay in there at Old Trafford, and
yeah, Man United pull one back. One of the finest managers I've ever witnessed, by the way. Be able to just somehow orchestrate a goal, Ruffy.
Ruffy will be telling us he predicted 3 each before the games.
No, you're kidding. I'm not fooled by managers who come in with this blueprint that you think is it's the definitive, Ruffy. It's a long haul. You've got to see a style. You've got to see a DNA. Where fans can go and say they know exactly what's coming. And I don't see that just yet. There's a goal for Ross County. That's a big goal, Ruffy. Josh Reid has scored there for Ross County, and Livingston.
Yeah, Livingston, with all the sort of financial talk, I think it's been a hindrance to everybody. I know David Martindale's tried to handle it very, very carefully, but players being players, sitting in a dressing room, listening about takeovers and shareholders and that. Shouldn't knock you off your stride on the park, but the Monday to Friday, if people continue to talk about it, then somebody obviously says to somebody else, do you know what's happening?
Yeah. I have to say, Ruffy, Simon Murray has been given the goal, basically because he scored it. Just thought I'd tell you that.
He's actually stepped up this season, Peter.
Yes.
Big John White's kind of went off the boil a wee bit, but he's got about 9 now, I think.
I was surprised they actually signed him from Queen's Park. But because he had experience at Hibs, didn't quite work out for him. Went to Queen's Park, scored goals there, and then all of a sudden Malky nips in.
It was a strange appointment, wasn't it? Because they were supposed to be going up to play somebody somewhere, and then he was going up to see Ross County because he was up. I think he's from up there. Am I right in saying that, Ruffy? I think he's from up there.
He's up there.
But they said they couldn't knock back, obviously, the offer. But Queen's Park's form dipped as well when he left. Because they ended up not going up at the end of the season. Thistle trounced them, didn't they? Was it 4-0, 4-5?
Yeah.
So they suffered as well because of that. But no, he scored goals.
Yeah, if you have just joined us on our Saturday football show, we'd just like to have a wee natter about football, offer our opinion and keep you up to date with the goals. Hit the subscribe button if you can, share it with your friends, certainly across all our social media. People are following us and the figures are sensational. Thank you very much. On a Saturday, if you are near or far, drop us a wee line. We'd love to hear from you. Just giving you a mention and obviously give us your opinion as well, because quite simply, this day started with a game up at McDermott Park from St Johnstone. Didn't go according to plan for them, and Michael Beale well happy with a 2-0 win. Robbie Matondo scored the second goal, but the first goal from Danilo, everybody's celebrating, but Danilo's compound fracture, he's in hospital, he's going to be out for a wee while, and certainly he will not be involved against Real Betis. Celtic 3-0 against Dundee, coasting there at Celtic Park. Hearts 2-0 up, coasting against Aberdeen, and then it's Kilmarnock 1, Hibernian 2. Is there a comeback on there for Derek McInnes's men? Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1, and Ross County 1, Livingston 0. There you have that Premiership, Ruffy.
Yeah, Ross County, I thought, well done to Malky. I think he got a good result away from home. But he's got to keep his fans at home pleased, and certainly, winning, if they do win today, if they run out winners today, that's a great start for them. I think that year on year he just rebuilds. That's the Ross County way, and certainly if he can keep a hold of his better players that he brings in rather than losing them, I think they'll have a better chance. I
have to tell you, Ali, the love affair with Ange is over. Tottenham 0, Sheffield United 1.
As the usual, isn't it? They don't get the manager of the month. They get the manager of the month, Ruffy. You get a defeat.
Well, that's what the Tottenham fans are scared of. They think it's the Jonah kiss, with that one. Hamer scored the goal.
I wouldn't think any managers in the last couple of seasons have had manager of the month in at Tottenham Hotspur, but Hamer's goal, and Ange's maybe going to have to try and make a good substitution to get back into that one.
Well, this is
where he has to show his mettle.
Yeah, you're right, mate. He's going to have to do something. Of course, he's also been nominated for the FIFA Men's Coach of the Year. I think Andrew was very complimentary this week towards Celtic on getting that nomination.
And for the FIFA nomination, I mean, obviously, fairly humbled, but again, I'm just rapt that it's recognition again of a great group of people that I worked with, staff and players, everyone involved at Celtic, the fans, and it's great recognition for that club. It's a great club, and sometimes its achievements gets diminished because people sort of look down on the league. But I think any time you win a treble, and we we did that last year in the best possible manner. We won the league. We beat Rangers in both the cups. It wasn't easy in any stretch. And I just think it's great recognition for that football club. Again, I'm just the front man, but I'm really, really pleased and rapt that that great football club gets the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, what a nice touch there from Ange, because at the end of the day, I never really bother with anyone looking at the league in disdain, because I know exactly where we are in the football world, as many countries know exactly where they are when they're looking at the giants now with the money that's on show in the English Premier League. We all feel like paupers.
Yeah, we're the poor neighbours. You look across the pond to Holland, the TV deal they got during the week there, Peter. Millions and millions more than we ever get, you know.
Yeah.
I think they sell the whole lot of it out to all the leagues and show all the leagues as well, so, which is a great idea. So whatever league you're in, whatever team you support, you're going to see your team on the telly. So, but we are the poor relations.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically because we're strangled by two clubs who dictate, rather than everybody looking to try and get everybody involved. If that's the Dutch DNA, hopefully we'll copy it, Ruffy, and try and be, I think we've got to be more like the Americans in how we sell our product and how we gloss it up and how we market it as well.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, it has to go to a vote, and votes don't work here.
Yes, absolutely it doesn't. Well, that's what I'm saying to you, because there are people with self-interest who just absolutely strangle the rest of Scottish football. Just an opinion. You don't need to take it on board. You might disagree with it. Thank you to so many of you for hitting the subscribe button. It's always a bonus for us. And James says all about the money from TV that holds us back. It's the only thing that you may think it holds us back, James. It props us up at the moment rather than holding us back. If anything, if we could improve the product, if we could actually look at ways to try and let TV move the boundaries and expose the game even more, Ali, we would have a product that everybody wants to get involved in. And the other thing about it, which I think is a huge thing, it's not just about PLZ soccer on this, it's about every company in there. You can have football rights for people who want to cover the football, but I think they've got to involve the other broadcasters in promoting the game as well, rather than this kind of exclusivity that they have with a very small minority.
Oh, Ruffy's right. Ruffy's knocked it in the head there, what he's saying, the voting of things and people. But these people keep getting voted in, Peter.
Yeah.
I mean, see when you're watching the worldwide Celtic and Rangers game, there's 20 million people watching that.
Joe Wright's equalised for Kilmarnock 2-2. I mean, I wonder who in their right mind would have gone for 2-2 in that game.
who would have said Kilmarnock have only got 2 goals in them?
What a game that is, eh?
Absolutely. So it's one of the games that we don't actually watch, because you always turn to your mate later on and say, I've never really seen a good game down at Rugby Park. It's 2 each now.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Saturday afternoon, that's what we love about it. St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2 was the full-time score. Celtic 3-0 up in Dundee, Hearts 2-0 up in Aberdeen, and it's Killie 2, Hibs 2, Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1, and Ross County 1, Livingston 0. So we're getting wins all over the place in the Scottish Premiership. Arbroath leading Adrionians, Dundee United and Greenock Morton at 1-1, Queen's Park 0, Dunfermline 2, and Wraith Rovers 0-0 with Inverness, Caledonian and Thistle at this moment. I don't know about you, but was that your best period as a player, Ali, at Wraith Rovers?
Probably leaving here. Got to Motherwell first, obviously, and Tam no fitting into his team, no fitting. I mean, Ruffy will tell you. I mean, guys, managers have got a certain way of playing. It was Dougie Arnott. And Dougie Arnott was the talisman.
Yeah.
So it was one up front. So there was a lot of strikers sitting on that bench. So I had to move.
Well, my God, I'm amazed at that, because
I was going to
say Dougie Arnott would have been made for you.
Yeah.
But Tam didn't play that way. It was him up front himself. We packed the midfield.
Wow.
Especially being away from home. So Jimmy Nicholl obviously seen I wasn't getting a game, he came in for me, so I was away, and the club, I wasn't sold in the club, Ruffy, and this is true. It was the guys that I was going up to play with, with Jock McStay, Peter Heatherstone, Gordon Dalziel, Ronnie Coyle, all the crews, you know them.
I know them, they're the maddest bunch I've ever seen.
And I thought to myself, I would quite like to actually work with these guys. And it paid off. Yeah. There's a lot to be said for having a jovial dressing room, Ruffy, a jovial dressing room.
Where was your best?
Certainly the players you mentioned there would be a great bunch to be about.
I don't think the Fifers liked as much, No. Yeah. We come up to training.
What about where was your best dressing room that you absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it?
I had a lot of good dressing rooms at Thistle through the years. I mean, I was there 13 years, so players come and go, and good banter with VP. I don't know if you remember, Tommy Craig's brother, John Craig. Guys like that, Brian Whittaker, you know, that just a laugh, you know. I mean, I do believe the game's changed now.
Tremendously.
I mean, Coisty always talks about their dressing room. It's the best ever. I don't know if that dressing room would be the same now. And it's nothing against the foreigners coming in, you know, there's a different mentality now, but when we played, Monday to Friday was just a joke. Not a joke.
Yes.
But it was. It was great to walk in and there'd be a bit of banter and a bit of carry on, and somebody doing something stupid and moving on. But I think that bonds everybody together, because when Saturday comes, you know, you've had a great Monday to Friday, and then Saturday comes and you're out there fighting for each other. And I always felt that if you had a lot of pals on the park, it was half the battle.
Ali, it's not a crime to enjoy yourself when you're with a group of people that you work with. It's not a crime.
Absolutely
for him to say, you know, there was jokes, there was laughter. You need that.
Absolutely. But by the way, as you mentioned earlier on about the fly, if it was going to be okay, and there's guys out there that want to take football quite seriously. You know, they don't want guys joking in the dressing room. But what I will say is you carry that on. You still have the dressing room banter as you go older with guys you meet, you know, and it never leaves you. And that's the thing I miss most about football. Get into the dressing room every day, hearing Ali McLeod's voice, you know, hearing Jimmy Nicholl's voice, hearing me Tam moaning it is, you miss that. And it's only when you're out of it you remember how important it was.
Is that why you're continuing it with Dukla? Is that why you're just keeping it going?
You know, last week there was a couple of wee songs that Jerry had started, so there's a couple of old disco movers, shall I say, Peter?
Yeah, you need the banter, don't you, Ruffy? It's absolutely magnificent. I can tell you right now that you know, we've got a fairly decisive look in the Scottish Premiership, but as far as the rest of the leagues, it's Arbroath 2, Airdronians 0, Dundee United 1-1 with Greenock Morton, Queen's Park 0, Dunfermline 2, Wraith Rovers 0, Inverness Cally Thistle 0, and in League 1 it's Annan 3-0 up in Stirling Albion. It's 2-2 between Cove Rangers and Kelty Hearts. No goals, Falkirk Queen of the South, 1-1 Hamilton Accies and Alloa. Montrose 5, Edinburgh City 2. What a game that is. League 2, it's East Fife 2, Clyde 0, Elgin 2, Dumbarton 0, Forfar and Spartans are 2-2, Peterhead 1-1 with Bonnyrigg, and Stenhousemuir 5, Stranraer 0. So goal there. Goal for Livingston, Bruce Anderson has scored, and if we talk about boys that can create a good laugh, Bruce Anderson is one of those boys.
And not only a good laugh, but Livingston's relying on him so much. You know, they don't have many goal scorers, and he comes up with the goal usually when it matters. And it was certainly interesting reading what he was saying. He wants to be a starter every week. He doesn't want to be sitting on the bench. He wants to be the player that contributes, and that's a massive goal for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge goal for them. Liverpool won against Wolves at Molyneux 3-1. Aston Villa 0, Crystal Palace 1. And I think everybody at this moment, Roy Hodgson's unwell and unable to attend that game. Certainly hope that he has a speedy recovery. As Crystal Palace boss says, boys are doing him proud. The one goal up there, Fulham 1, Luton Town 0. Manchester United have got a goal back. Man United 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 3. That's a coupon buster, or is it? Tottenham 0, Sheffield United 1. Heading into the latter part with only 5 minutes left, and suddenly Tottenham, is that them back to their old ways again? I would never ever put Tottenham on a bookies for them if I ever gambled, Ruffy, which I don't.
No. But I think they don't have a history of any consistency at all. They'll come up with a big score now and then, but obviously with Harry Kane leaving, you know, it makes their job even harder. But certainly they've had a great start to the season, and good to watch as well. Yeah, Ward-Prowse scored for West Ham to give them that 1-goal advantage at half-time, but as ever with a club that spent £1 billion, there's a chance they're going to come back into it. Doku, Silva and Haaland 3-1 now they're leading.
I think they just gave the teams a start, didn't they? And then they just go, listen, this is what we're going to do to you the second half. I will add in that when you're reading out the scores there, watching that, Luton Town and Sheffield United coming up, I didn't fancy them to win many games this season. If Sheffield United can get that result, that's fantastic for them.
It's immense for them. Keith Fife says, afternoon PLZ Soccer. Afternoon Keith, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as many people do. We'd love to hear from you, any opinions you have. More and more people certainly tuning into our programmes midweek and enjoying them. There was a feeling, Ruffy, that maybe, that 5 days a week, the football show, but we decided to offer variety, and people are really responding and enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Most of the guys I talked to were obviously a wee bit apprehensive at what was going to happen, because they were in a set zone of 4 o'clock every day, and then it has to change, the time changes, other things happen. But certainly I think the variety more than anything else is great, know, and I think the media one, the one-to-ones that you're doing, they're fantastic to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's always variety that we're trying to give you, rather than people just joining phone-ins and moaning about the same two clubs every week. Still, that's on my CV that's on my CV, Ruffy, from years gone by, which at times can take it out of you, can't it?
Oh, I can imagine. I remember the day, if you were sitting for 2 hours and the first caller came on, that was you. That was 2 hours.
Yeah.
Whatever that subject he hit you with,
that was 2
hours, and it must have been, well, it has affected you a wee bit.
Yeah, as I have to say to you. Janice makes a very good point. I think this is something that I think all of us have a duty of care when you're talking about someone like Danilo, who scored a goal but then has a compound fracture. Janice says head injuries in football haven't to be taken lightly, especially with the research going into dementia. I hope Danilo is okay. I think Janice makes a great point, and something that I think everyone is aware of is the one thing when Danilo was lying down, you knew that he was going to have to come off. Even if he did not have a fracture, he'd been there lying down for such a long period of time that concussion, you don't go back onto the field.
You think the physios order that as well, don't they? They've got to get into it and make sure exactly where he is, and and try and get him to come round. He may have, I don't know, was he knocked out, Peter?
Well, what happened was he connected cleanly with the ball first, and then Liam Gordon followed through on the side of his head, and that's where the real problem is. So we do, and Janice, I think that's a good point you make.
And I think the clubs do as well now. I think there's a ruling now, if you come off the park and the doctor at the side decides you've got concussion, you can't play for 10 days.
Yeah.
So they're really on top of it.
Absolutely. And by the way, Ruffy, not only are they really on top of it, but there is a genuine feeling that nowadays, whereas before you'd say, oh, there's the bandage, on you go, even the managers and the staff in the back room are now at the point where they're saying, no, we're not going to take chances.
No, and quite rightly so. I think the history of things that have been happening, from a long time ago with the dementia and everything, I don't think anybody can take a chance now with any players. It's a livelihood that you've got to watch. They've got families as well, and you don't want an instance where somebody makes a wrong decision and it affects their life.
Yeah.
You think about your career as well, Peter, and how many times you've actually headed the ball in training, in games. I've come on with concussion loads of times. Probably a lot of people will say, aye, you played as if you had concussion. But no, it's and we didn't have anybody then, Ruffy. You know this. Mm-hmm. Nobody then to kind of stop you. The club doctor, that was it. We didn't really know much about it, whether that was the reason for all this stuff that's came light with rugby players, boxers, football players now. So no, it's a huge thing now.
And without in any way trying to take away the seriousness of the issue, Ruffy, I kind of modelled myself on the way you modelled your professional football career. I just avoided heading completely.
That's what you've got two centre halves for. Two centre halves for are just there ahead of the ball.
Yeah.
Why would I want to get involved with getting hurt or banging into anybody, or some big guy like him running in trying to take me out?
Exactly. Ruffy, if I have the only time I ever head the ball is if I know there's nobody around me and I'm free to head it. Yeah. If there's everybody in there and it's packed, I'm going to try and bring it down or let somebody else get a sore face.
Played St Mirren at Love Street, we got a corner. Campbell Money says to me, when are you putting me in the net the day?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I told you that one when we were playing against Wales, we were playing John Toshank, who was like 6 feet, and he shudders and everything. And I remember we were walking in, as I said to you, Big Gordon McQueen said to me, "He's mine." I went, "Oh, thank God for that."
Yeah, exactly. John Toshak was some player as well. We're heading towards the latter stages now of the matches, and the bad news really is the fly is still alive. Ruffy, I just scalped it off the top of the computer there, but it's now a comfortable win for Celtic, a comfortable win for Hearts, Ali. 2-0.
As we spoke about,
against
Aberdeen fans will not be happy, and I want to hear Peter telling us what exactly happens after that game. I want to hear, I want to see the body language of the Aberdeen players. I'm just really interested in what's going to happen up there. Tremendous win for Hearts, they needed it as well.
Yeah.
So their three managers will be quite happy today after the game. So no, Stephen Naismith will be quite happy, obviously.
I think Stephen Naismith, to be perfectly honest with you, I know we joke about it, but you know, because we know Stephen Naismith is always in charge. It's just that whole front to try and get round the rules.
Done it as well, Peter. It wasn't right. No? You know, I mean, obviously after the European game coming in, but he needs a wee chance. He needs to get that team motoring again. As you say, the atmosphere there is tremendous every time they play at home. The fans get behind their team, so they have to go on a run. It's as simple as that. Yeah,
and full marks to Stephen. I think he certainly will enjoy that one. And I think the other aspect of it, we're talking about how teams, you want to see a style, you want to understand what the manager's all about. Stephen mentioned at the start of the season he wanted them to play in the front foot and be more direct, and I've watched them and I've been to see exactly what he's trying to do. So if he can get momentum off the back of a good win against a side that really, that's their main contenders, Ruffy.
I would say so. You know, I think obviously Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen will be the number 3 place, but certainly when you come up against a team who you're challenging to be third and you beat them 2-0 quite comfortably, you know, the place will be absolutely buzzing. You know, they'll be looking forward to the next game. We're talking about after the game interviews. It'll be interesting. Barry Robson's been a breath of fresh air after games. You know, he's come out. It'll be interesting to see how his tactic is this time. You know, he's got to keep the fans on board. And it's okay coming into press conference and you know it's great getting a line sitting there and all that, but now I thought he's got to come out and give the Aberdeen supporters something. What's happening or what's not happening, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
I think that was the case with Michael Beale after the Old Firm game as well, wasn't it? Yeah. He was buoyant in all his interviews post and after games and whatever, and then he comes, you know, and his demeanour had changed slightly, talking about what was happening in training, Peter, what they were doing. And obviously he's got the result today, so he can go in there and be confident again and speak. They've got 3 points and they've moved up the table.
I can tell you it is Hearts 2, Aberdeen 0 full time. So, and at Fir Park it's finished Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1. So suddenly great for St Mirren because they are nicely tucked in behind Celtic, and then Motherwell, you know, drop a point below them, and Rangers, you know, obviously they got the win that they craved today against St Johnstone. They had to bounce back and they have managed that. Full-time scores now coming in right across the board. So St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2, Celtic 3, Dundee 0, and Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1. The remaining games 2-2 between Killie and Hibs. Hearts 2-0 against Aberdeen, full-time there, and Ross County 1, Livingston 1, and there's still a good 10 or so minutes to go in that one, Ruffy, because of that delay.
Yeah, but at this moment in time, Ross County and Livingston just want points.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you go into the dressing room, if you're down there and you know what you're up against, you start looking at the results that you've just read out. And if you've picked up a point more than a team that's going to be challenging, okay, you're going to be disappointed you never won the game, but you're certainly more than happy that you've got a point to take you away from them. So there's still a wee bit in that game to go, but I think both teams at this moment in time will be happy with that.
Depending on how that game's went, David Martindale will definitely 100% be the happier of the both managers.
Yep, absolutely. Celtic out back at the top of the table. St Mirren, Motherwell, Rangers, Hearts, Ross County, Livingston, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Hibs, Aberdeen, and St Johnstone's story of the day undoubtedly will be Aberdeen under pressure. Hibs started off so well. It looked as if Nick Montgomery was going to get that opening day win for him, or his debut win as the Hibs manager, but Kilmarnock, fair play to them, pegged them back.
Yeah, well, Ali touched on it briefly at the beginning. Hibs can't defend. They don't have. They bought the boy Fish in, you know, Hanlon, like you said, he'd taken him out the day. They just haven't had a back four or a back three that's looked strong enough to go into games and say, right, see, we got a goal today, we're just going to sit in and we're not going to lose then. They've never been able to do that for a long, long time. Be able to come out in a big game with 0 against them.
2-2 it finished at Rugby Park between Kilmarnock and Hibernian. Manchester United losing by 3-1 against Brighton. What a scoreline that is. Aston Villa, I think, have salvaged a point, equalising against Crystal Palace, 1-1 there. But that is incredible down south. That will be the story that dominates the back pages. People will be looking and wondering exactly what has happened at that club and how they're going to try and steady the ship. He's under pressure again now, another United manager.
I don't know the facts. I mean, I remember people talking about Rangers during the week there and the many managers they had in their history. And then all of a sudden in the last 10 years they've had so many managers, Ruffy. I would like to actually know Man United's story and the many managers they've had.
After Ferguson?
Aye, because it seems to be a hell of a lot. And it's no worked, and as you rightly said earlier on, Mourinho got a bit of success there. And he got slaughtered at times as well, by the way. So,
well, the other one was David Moyes, who was undone by a chief executive who's just, the criticism that came his way was justified. After you have somebody like David Gill and Ferguson, it's a great partnership. It just hasn't managed. Spurs have managed a late equaliser. Son has managed 98 minutes Ange time.
They never stop, Peter. They never stop.
They never stop. Ruffy, he'll be jumping about the side of the track.
And so the fans, and we're led to believe it's an unbelievable stadium to play in or be in, to watch a game.
I think we've got to go down there for a bit of hospitality, Ruffy. What do you think?
I keep hearing everybody talking about it. I keep hearing about the hospitality and the forecourt that they've got down the bottom, and it's just incredible. But certainly a goal at the end of the game like that will have everybody bouncing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tottenham with an equaliser against Sheffield United at home, 98 minutes, incredible. And Manchester United losing to Brighton, Fulham winning 1-0 against Luton as well. Liverpool 3-1 winners against Wolves. Aston Villa look as if they've salvaged a point against Crystal Palace, and Man City 3-1 against West Ham.
See, I told you, Ruffy, mentioned earlier on there, just, I couldn't see Sheffield United winning that many games this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long haul, it's a long marathon, but unfortunately, the way football is nowadays, it doesn't last, because everybody wants an immediate fix, and it looks as if, some managers sadly lose their jobs too early when they're looking for a chance to get a bit of stability, time, backing from the board. Doesn't happen when the finances are tight, or indeed you've got boardrooms where they're looking to try and make the maximum profit. And I can tell you right now, Tottenham have scored again, 2-1. What a manager this boy is, eh? 2-1, they've won it. That is outrageous, Ruffy.
It is. As far as the opposition concerned, it's an absolute shocker. I think any manager will tell you if you're winning 1-0, you've got to be big enough and strong enough to see you a game. Okay, you lose a goal, but to lose the second one, just criminal.
Yeah, absolutely. From a situation, Ruffy, where they were second at the start of the day, and then looking as if they were going to drop out of it. What a result! 3 points, Ali.
Unbelievable. They'll be singing Ange's name. They'll be singing that song that they invented that was getting sang a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, they had Robbie Williams singing the Spurs song this week, Ange Postecoglou, and then I saw another Twitter and TikTok video with Adele singing the Spurs song. So suddenly, all these superstars love Spurs.
About the superstars.
Yeah, absolutely. Ross County 1, Livingston 1 is the one we're waiting on. It's been delayed, so there's still another 5 or 10 minutes to go in that one for Malky Mackay, or indeed David Martindale's side, to get a win in that game up at Dingwall. But elsewhere, Rangers 2-0 winners. The shine slightly taken off it with the injury to Danilo. He'll be out for more than a few weeks with a compound fracture on the side of his head. Celtic 3, Dundee 0. Good win for Brendan Rodgers' side there. Hearts 2, Aberdeen 0. The big game at Tynecastle. Quite simply, both managers wanted 3 points or something positive from the game, and it's Stephen Naismith who emerges as the main man with the win there at Tynecastle. Hibs looked as if Nick Montgomery was going to get that debut win as manager, but Kelly fought back to make it 2-2. And elsewhere at Fir Park, Motherwell have had a great start to the season. So St Mirren 1-0 winners at Fir Park. Stephen Robinson absolutely delighted. Ross County 1, Livingston 1 is the latest score there in the Championship, as well as Ayr United 0, Partick Thistle 4 from last night. Today it was Arbroath 4, Airdronians 0, Dundee United 1, Greenock Morton 1, Queen's Park 0, Dunfermline 2, Wraith Rovers 1, Inverness Cally Thistle 0. Right at the death there, Wraith Rovers get the win. In Scottish League 1, it's Annan Athletic 3, Stirling Albion 0, Cove Rangers 2, Kelty Hearts 2, Falkirk 1, Queen of the South 0. That game heading towards its completion as well. Hamilton Accies 2, Alloa Athletic 1, and Montrose 5, Edinburgh City 2. In Scottish League 2, East Fife 2, Clyde 0, Elgin City 2, Dumbarton 0, Forfar 2, Spartans 2, Peterhead 2, Bonnyrigg Rose 1, and Stenhousemuir 5, Stranraer 0. That's how it looks in all 4 divisions in Scotland. And as we mentioned to you before, as far as England is concerned, the early kick-off was Wolves against Liverpool. Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp's side 3-1 winners. Aston Villa 1, Crystal Palace 1, Fulham 1, Luton 0, Manchester United 1, Brighton 3, Tottenham 2-1 against Sheffield United. Incredible how that match has turned on its head. West Ham 1, Manchester City 3, and Newcastle against Brentford is the 5:30 kick-off. Absolutely incredible. That's how it all looks. You can give us your view on that. We are chatting about football, bantering. Ruffy's here, Ali Graham's here. Ruffy, standout score for you in the Scottish Premiership?
Well, obviously the Kilmarnock comeback was good for them. I think the Hearts 2-0 against Aberdeen. I thought that was the big game of the day, and to come away, it looks as if it's quite a convincing 2-0 win, so well done to Hearts.
Yeah, it's been absolutely magnificent for them. A good win, and by the way, not one of those ones where, you know, it's been 2 incidents that have swung it their way. They've dominated.
Absolutely, and I think Patrick told us as well, there's a few tackles in that game, so I think Hearts have come out on top, and maybe Aberdeen have maybe went into their shell a wee bit, and Hearts have ended up dominating the game, Peter, dominating the game, and I'm really interested to see what the comments are going to be in that one, and also really interested to see what happened to Sheffield United in the 8 minutes of injury time, because it's one of the ones, roughly, when you're sitting, you hear the scores coming in, Peter's letting us know it's like 8 minutes into injury time and it's still 1-0. You want to know what happens, because you're a football guy.
It's the late show elsewhere, because Aston Villa have won 3-1, Ruffy. I just said that game is nearing its completion, and Aston Villa have scored 2 goals, they've won 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, when you're actually playing in a game and you're winning, you're drawing 1 each. You've got so many times you're saying to everybody run about you, come on, let's just see this out.
Ruffy, let's go to Fir Park. Kerry Pollock's there for us.
Full time here at Fir Park, and it's St Mirren who will continue that unbeaten run in the league after a 1-0 victory over Motherwell here this afternoon. It was Scott Tanser who gave his side the lead with a lovely finish at the back post after the ball was delivered in from Ryan Strain. But after the visitors got that opener, it was all Motherwell who created all the chances, but just no end product to get themselves back in this tie. They should have equalised right at the death through Georgie Gent, who came off the bench in the closing minutes of the game, but his efforts came crashing off the crossbar. I'll get the reactions from Stephen Robinson and Stuart Kettlewell very shortly. It finishes here at Fir Park. It's Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1.
Yeah, what a result for the Saints. Celtic are on top with 13 points, St Mirren with 11, and then it's Motherwell on 10 and Rangers on 9. Hearts are in 5th place on 7 points. Ross County on 7 points in 6th position. The bottom 6 occupied by Livingston, Kilmarnock, Dundee, and then Hibs. And then the bottom 2 positions, Aberdeen with only 2 points and St Johnstone with only 2, Ruffy.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of the show we're talking about managers losing their jobs, and certainly Aberdeen sitting at the bottom there with 2 points. As I said, the manager will have to come out and convince the owners and convince the supporters that this is just a small bad start to the season. But I'm going to move away from that league, and I think we are going to lose a manager, and it's going to be in the Championship.
Yeah, and that manager is?
Billy Dodds. I think Inverness are in a perilous position. That late goal for Ross County, I don't think they've won a game for about 10 or 11. Obviously we know about the financial situation up there, and they were fortunate enough to go at the final and took them out of that position, so they've got ambitions to be back in the Premiership as well. And I just think the record that's there, and you know the way they've been playing and not getting results, so I think we'll have to keep our eye on that. Well, I hope it's not true. I hope it isn't. I think Billy offers a lot to the game, up there. And but again, it's not a position you want to be in.
Yeah, interesting one there.
Great result for Raith. Keeps Ian Murray in there. Keeps them up the top end of the table. Right, it's still sitting second.
They could be second or third. They'll jump above Thistle, I think.
Yeah. So an up and coming manager, Ruffy. So good result for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I just think that league, as we mentioned on more than a few occasions, it's so difficult to try and get out of that league. It's always competitive in that division. And as you mentioned there, I think joint second with Partick Thistle on 10 points. And then, as you mentioned there, Ruffy, Inverness, bottom 2 points below Ayr United. They've only got 1 point this season, haven't got a win yet. I think we're ready to go and hear from Patrick Mullen is there at Tynecastle to give us his full-time assessment.
Full time here at Tynecastle Park, and it's finished. Harder Midlothian 2, Aberdeen 0. A truly dominant display by Stephen Naismith's side on his debut as permanent Hearts manager. Side to the lead in just the 13th minute when Oda's strike was deflected and found its way into the back of the net. Hearts were truly dominant in the second half once again. Chances coming through Shanklin, Oda and Liam Boyce, and it was Liam Boyce that got their second when he got on the end of a spilled shot by Kile Roos and he topped the ball in to the back of the net. Another disappointing day for Aberdeen and Barry Robson, who are still winless in the league so far this season. I'll be speaking to both the managers straight after this, but at full time here at Tynecastle Park, it's finished. Harder Midlothian 2, Aberdeen 0.
Yeah, and listen, didn't mince his words there, Patrick, because quite simply, Hearts deserving of their win.
Yeah, and you usually get managers coming on after the game giving a different slant on the game, going, I can't believe how we won, never got in there to that game. So by that report there, it'll be interesting to see what Barry Robson's reflection is on that 90 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, St Mirren, definitely a good shout for third place, says Chris. And obviously this one here, Andrew says, Peter, could you ask the guy on the left if he fancies going in goals for Hibs, because Marshall's not the answer. So
yeah, but we're talking about that at the end of the season, and I think it was Tam again who sees Hibs quite a lot. I mean, goalkeepers do go on, it's a lot of people say you mature, you get better, but there are other things that go with it as well, your mobility and sometimes I think, as far as David Marshall's there, you set a standard that's so high, and if you do drop down that wee bit of level, it's against you, and he's a tremendous goalkeeper and he always has been, but at the end of the day, he himself will know, if it is anything to do with himself and the way he's training or whatever, so for me, any goalkeeper at that age, it's up to them to make I'd like to see them making the decision rather than the managers making the decision, or as we've just started doing, the supporters are saying, he's past it, he's gone, get him out of there, that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see it. I don't think you can always 100% blame the goalkeeper.
Yeah, okay. And Ruffy sticking up for the Goalkeepers Union there, by the way. Andrew Breslin says, Peter, if Billy Dodds gets sacked, you could sign him for PLZ Soccer. I mean, there's only so many people that get sacked who can sign Ruffy, to be honest with you.
Travelling expenses would be a nightmare.
And to be fair, we never signed Ali on the basis he was sacked anyway. It was just we needed a bit of quality and a bit of stability in the back line. But and of course we've got Neil Lennon on a Monday and Lee McCulloch on a Friday. I have to tell you, Ruffy, Lee McCulloch is going through the worst run ever at five-a-side. He's in danger of being the last pick.
He's affected. When he comes in on a Friday, you can tell by his demeanour. I mean, nobody likes to be on a losing run, but this is getting ridiculous.
This is. These are just talking about fives. You'd have Aberdeen players there, haven't they? That's how they can't get a win, because their confidence is low.
Can I just say something to you? If we're in a situation right now, and again, you hate to go into this routine because of the nature of the 21st century and where we are with people and the pressure that comes with social media, is it wrong to say that people will now start to be questioning Barry Robson, or should people just shut up and let him get that time to mould his side?
Us guys can shut up and let him get time to mould his side, but the supporters that are paying good money, 10 and a half season ticket holders, want to see Aberdeen winning.
And travelling, can you imagine how much
2,500,
the Aberdeen
3,000
travelling support spend every second?
They do have a big travelling support,
Saturday,
Ruffy.
you know, and they take these things into consideration as well. And then they come up with it, but you told us we would never be in this position again.
So they're the guys that put pressure on the board.
Yeah.
The board then have to.
And by the way, sometimes when we do get to a situation where Ruffy would offer some apologetic, answer towards the goalkeeping union, he gets leather. David Gemmell says, I still have Ruffy's image after that Johnny Rep screamer, pointing fingers as if the defence was to blame, as per norm for goalkeepers. Absolutely. And before he even says it, because I know him so well, it took a deflection.
He'll just come in with another name again, Peter. I mean, I mentioned Campbell Money earlier on there.
Yeah.
He came right out with Gordon McQueen and John Toshak.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm up against.
Well, I was just about to say, if you're talking about name droppers, he's the king. Although I have to tell you, nobody that we've had on this season, since the start of the season, beats Billy Sloan. I had him in the Straight Talk, and a one-to-one. Billy's the top Scottish music journalist for 40 odd years, and he just name dropped every big star you could think of, and interviewed Grace Jones in a bath, which was I know rough. I know it's one of those ones when Ruffy's thinking, I wish I was a music journalist. But it's a great
Grace Jones.
It's a great tale. I loved Grace Jones. I thought she was really talented. Her music as well. But Billy interviewed her. It's a great story, and that's on Straight Talk on PLZ's YouTube channel. It's well worth. If you love your music, listen to it, watch it. We've got it on the podcast on YouTube as well. Women's football show, as well as we have the journalists getting round and talking about all the burning issues in world football as well as European and domestically. Full time up there at Dingwall. I can tell you, in that match it finished 1-1 for that. Ross County 1, Livingston 1.
And Malky will be disappointed with that. I think David Martindale will be over the moon getting the goal, and Bruce Anderson again coming up with the goods. But certainly Ross County, we've been looking at that fixture and going, that should be 3 points, and isn't to be, so they have to move on.
Well, I have to tell you, they're top half of the table.
Exactly, and that's where you want to be. As Ruffy says, it's all about just picking up points. These teams want to just pick up points against the teams that are going to be in and around them at the end of the season. If you can get them, if you know when you look at the calendar and you look at your fixtures, you know, Ruffy, that you're going to look at what you're possibly going to get, and you've got a wee figure in your mind where you can go. David will be absolutely delighted with that.
Teams now operate in quarters.
Yes.
They'll look at a quarter. They'll look at a quarter and say, right, if we get X amount of points, say 16 points out of that quarter. If we get 16 out of that quarter, we get something out of that quarter. That's the way they judge when safety comes in. So they know exactly the quarters they've got, and the teams when they're playing these teams, and what they end up in that quarter, how much they have to get better for the next quarter. So that's the way they operate.
And it's not like that, Peter, as well. I mean, if you look at Nick's first game for Hibs today, going down to Kilmarnock, people have probably told him where he's going, what the facilities are like, what the park's like, etc. Difficult game. They've already beaten Rangers and Celtic, whatever. Is he happy with a point before he goes? But then he's 2-0 up, and he's thinking, here we are, this is easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out like that.
Absolutely. I have to say that, if you are looking for drama, and late drama, it certainly happened in the English Premier League, where Aston Villa defeated Crystal Palace by 3-1. That's still going on as we speak. So obviously a lot of injury time added on. But at Tottenham Hotspur, they were 1 goal down, and then Richarlison scored one and set up the other as they came from behind late injury time. And that's an incredible scoreline. It's been a week when we're coming back off the international football, and I wonder, Ruffy, if we should read too much into that defeat to England. Should we just brush it aside and say, okay, if anything, what we achieved from it is an insight into the levels that we have to reach, even if we get to a tournament?
Yeah, I thought the summing up of it after was the way that our fans reacted to quite a bad defeat, but they were happy, and that just shows you where we've come from. I think they now realise that we are a good side, we've got good players, but against stronger opposition, we've got a wee bit to go. So as long as they buy into, you know, where we are and against the other teams that we're playing and winning games, I think that's a good thing. I think there wouldn't have been many times a long time ago that Scotland beat 3-0 by England and been gutted. I think they went away, okay, we gave it a shot. You know, we know that they've got 4 or 5 better players than us, but we are where we are, and they're just looking at what we need to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, the problem for us, Ali, is we don't have... I mean, here's a suggestion for you, and I don't know if you're going to buy into it or not.
Okay.
With the current Scotland squad that we have, if we had I'm just going to name one player, if we had a Gareth Bale, that whole team could be propelled to another level. We don't have a world-class player.
No, I think we suffer up in the top end of the park as well, Peter. And you're right, when the game started, roughly, that we were going to struggle. That long ball for kick-off that Dykes sometimes usually gets a flick on, maybe wins us a shy up the park. We just sat right off England. See the first 6 minutes, I feared the worst. I thought we were going to get a tanking. The first 6 minutes of that game, we sat back, we let them dominate, and they're quality players. Harry Kane, I mean, my mate watched Harry Kane, he says he just glides along the top of the grass. He just drifts in and out the game, and then he's devastating. We've not got anything like that, Peter.
No, and if we did, it could be dramatic. And that, I don't think we should be too hard on the squad. Sometimes there's mistakes, the odd ones that you make. How Andy Robertson feels the need to apologise, I do not know, because at the end of the day, Ruffy, he is one of those players that stepped up to the plate time and time again. Yeah, I mean, playing with Liverpool, you know, and I think he was made captain today because of 200 appearances or something like that. He's got quality, you know, there's no doubt about it. I'm not. This is not a criticism. I think a wee bit of failing is defending.
You know, I just think that, yeah.
And I shut my eyes and I go, well, when does he defend with Liverpool? How many times has he got a winger running at him? How many times is he back to the goals? How many times is he making lunge tackles to stop goals going in the other end? He's an attacking player who excites you going forward, you know, and a wee bit like Tavernier. I think Tavernier comes under the same criticism. You know, he gives you everything going forward, scores goals, quality balls into the box, but defensively, he can get caught out. And you've just got to put up with that. You've just got to say, well, when you come up against better players are going to say, hey, he's away up the park, I'll just drift into that area, you know, and I'll just catch him out.
I thought a few times in the game as well, Ruffy, when Robertson was going up the left flank and Tierney was overlapping him. He sold him short a couple of times, and Kyle Walker, for me, the best fullback in the world.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Just absolutely used that. He just used that space, and we couldn't deal with him. And you look at the young guys in midfield, and people, Declan Rice got a lot of stick for the amount of money he went for. He's going to be the next England captain, without a doubt. He is absolutely quality. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I often look at people who we had a discussion in the office today. You know, sometimes in Scotland, domestically, UK as well, we tend to look at the negatives, what a player can't do, rather than that old Cruyff ethos, which is what can he do, and focus on that and the positives of that. And Tavernier certainly is one of those players that I think when people look back and measure his contribution for Rangers, then maybe they'll think they were a wee bit harsh. What about the story from a great game at Rugby Park? Alison McConnell was there.
Kilmarnock 2, Hibs 2, it finished all square here at Rugby Park after Derek McInnes' side showed their character to come from 2 goals down to take a point and of course ruin Nick Montgomery's first game in charge of Hibs. The Easter Road side had looked to be in firm control of this game. Come the hour mark, they were 2 goals to the good. They'd taken a first half lead through an own goal from Kilmarnock goalkeeper Will Dennis and followed that up with a second from Dylan Venti. Kilmarnock looked down and out, they'd offered very little attacking threat in the game. From out of nowhere, Kyle Vassell pulled a goal back to make it 2-1, and from there on in, Kilmarnock really put Hibs under pressure. They got the equaliser through Joe Wright, and from there on they really pushed Hibs to get a winner. It finished all square, but Nick Montgomery will have had a good indication of this Hibs team. Lots of attacking threat, lots of menace, but still that frailty throughout. For Derek McInnes, however, he'll be delighted just at the strength of character of his side to come and take something when it looked as though they would end up with nothing. Stay tuned to PLZ Soccer's social media platforms for all the player and manager update. Finished here at Rugby Park. Kilmarnock 2, Hibs 2.
Yeah, Ali down there watching a fantastic game. I mean, if you're looking for excitement, certainly a storyline with Nick Montgomery there and then a fight back. You can't ask for any more than that, Ali.
Absolutely not. I mean, just as we were saying earlier there, you know, he's been probably told all about going down to Rugby Park and how difficult it's going to be. He's 2-0 up and he's maybe thinking, you know, this is as hard as it's supposed to be. But then, again, do you stick a twist, Ruffy? Do you go for the third goal? Do they say 2-0 will do us, we'll try and defend? And that's been a problem all season.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll hear from some of the managers and players after the games before we go off air in the next half hour. And we'll also give you a little insight into any of the games taking place elsewhere, because obviously there's a late kick-off in England, which is Newcastle against Brentford. They're already talking about Eddie Howe being under pressure.
Yeah, and as you know, my son-in-law's a big Newcastle fan. He actually was so brave at the beginning of the season, he put a wee bit of cash on Newcastle to win the league.
Wow.
So it just shows you know how...
Brave or stupid.
Yeah, you can buy as many players in. I don't think... Well, you probably tell me, Pierre, how much have they spent?
Newcastle.
Not yet.
Not as much as you think, by the way. They're under the financial fair play guidelines. I think everybody's obviously, because of the nature of, you know, we have a situation where clubs are literally owned by, you know, billionaires, oil barons, states, you know, there's groups, conglomerates, you name it. People are keeping a close eye on it. Not that I think, you know, FAs and UEFA and FIFA are doing a good job of really scrutinising some of the clubs and their spending, because, I mean, Chelsea have spent £1 billion. I mean, they're not telling me they've balanced the books with £1 billion.
Absolutely not. I mean, the squad, they've got 2 squad photographs at the start of the season. There's not many of them.
Yeah.
It's an American football team, nothing.
But I was saying that to Pierre as well. I was listening to you, but again, you'll tell me because of the stats. How many American owners do we have now in the English Premiership?
Well, off the back of today, it looks as if Everton will have a group of American businessmen, 777.
That group that's coming in already own 4 other football clubs.
Yeah.
How do you get fair play into that? Is that where they manipulate the money side of it? Is that how they get away? No, we're just going to spend 20 million with them and then we'll take it off them and give them to another one of our other clubs. Is that how they jostle a bit?
Yeah, well, listen, let's get to the real news right across the whole of the Scottish Premiership after today's results. Celtic and Rangers getting wins off the back of that Old Firm derby. Coming out of it, it was Celtic looking to build on it and Rangers looking to bounce back from that defeat to Celtic at Ibrox. Elsewhere, we were certainly licking our lips at the mouth-watering prospect of Hearts locking horns with Aberdeen. In the end, Hearts dominant, winning it 2-0. There's got to be an unhappy manager. His name is Barry Robson.
We want to win football matches. I think they know that. I think we are a work in progress. I think you've seen that was a whole new back 5 today. We tried to change it at half time, but and you could see a bit of lack of cohesion with us. We tried to work a bit in the international break, but obviously with a lot of them away, we never got them back for a couple of days till it came back.
Well, a work in progress is how he describes it, Ruffy.
Yeah, well, that 10 seconds clip, I'm sure wouldn't be happy for a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of excuses there. There's a sort of a nervousness in the interview, which he's never had to experience since the start of the season. He's now going to have to answer a lot of questions, and unfortunately for him, if the owners are right behind where he thinks they're going to take them, then he'll be okay. But I don't think he could suffer too many results like that.
Yeah, especially at the bottom end of the table. And what's even worse for him, Ali, with being bottom with St Johnstone, they've got European games coming up, which is going to be a real it's going to be a real pressure on them. And I know you and I don't like this whole excuse of we're playing European football and, you know, we don't like the going into the Sunday, but they're under pressure.
I don't know if he's a modern day player, it doesn't like that excuse or whatever. When we played football, we loved midweek football and playing at the weekend. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the 5 at the back for the kind of first time thing there. He said a couple of weeks, and then he's trying to use an excuse. But then he comes back, as you say, with European football, it's going to be Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So how are they going to deal with that? Is that going to be the next excuse? He looked a wee bit awkward there to me as well. So watch this space.
2 draws out of the last 4 games, 2 defeats, and that one there today, Ruffy, a huge blow, has them quite simply on 2 points from the start of the season.
Don't hit that computer, please.
No, absolutely. I know. The reason why we're laughing is there's three of us. I'm actually going to have to pay him a fee. I'm going to have to pay a fee to the Fly, who's been with us non-stop in this studio, and he's got nowhere to go, and we're all trying to kill him. My apologies for Fly lovers everywhere. But nevertheless, Aberdeen are bottom with St
Johnstone. It's not good
Johnstone.
enough, Peter. It's not good enough for a club like Aberdeen. It isn't.
Aberdeen at the beginning of the season, with a new manager, with the owners round the table, looking forward to the new season, and Barry Robinson be sitting there. What's our objectives? What are our targets? Where should we be? And Barry would say, well, I think we could challenge Rangers and Celtic. We won't split them, but I think we could be the third force.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you to Europe. I'm going to take you to another stage, which never happened. And you're sitting 2 points in the league.
Well, I'll tell you, see, if I was Dave Cormack, I'd be sitting down with a Barry Robson. If I was sitting there with any other manager that's not performing the way you think they should, especially Aberdeen second bottom, I'd say, Barry, you've got a budget that's easily 10, 15, possibly 20 times that of Livingston. How come they are above us at the start of the season? He's having to cut his budget. He's trying to sell Joel Newbley. And you know, they are in a situation of crisis where they're trying to get somebody to buy them over. The board is in turmoil, arguing with each other and blocking the takeover. Livingston, though, with all that turmoil going on, are above Aberdeen.
Aberdeen players aren't good enough, Peter. It's as simple as that. You know, at this moment in time, the players aren't good enough. And you're not telling me as well, Ruffy. I think up there, there'd been a confidence at the start of the season with the players coming in and the money they've spent. We could maybe win a trophy this season. We could win one of the cups.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not good enough. And Dave Cormack, as you rightly say, will be asking the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. This one, Chris says Aberdeen could be similar to Dundee United last season. Big struggle this season for them, and we're going to find out if they need to start picking up results along the way. But they're second bottom at the moment, and Livingston with that equaliser against Ross County, they would get it to. They are now at this moment just a point behind Ross County in the mid-table 6th and 7th position, and that's how it looks there. We talked about Rangers and obviously the need to bounce back from that difficult result against Celtic. Hard to take for a lot of Rangers fans. Michael Beale was talking in midweek about obviously refereeing decisions that have gone against him. Obviously he's got worrying moments with injuries to Cantwell, and now Danilo picking up that injury today after scoring the goal, compound fracture and the head, and he's in hospital, and we wish him a speedy recovery. The one thing that Michael Beale was happy with, as well as the 3 points, was the reaction from the Rangers supporters.
We always need our fans, because you saw today, I thought they were excellent for the team today throughout, so well done to them as well, because it's not been a nice couple of weeks for them either.
It takes the heat off them.
It certainly does, and as Ali said at the beginning, it 1-0. I'm trying to think how many minutes there was to go before the second one, but it was some. If it had went 9 minutes to go plus extra time, pressure would have set in. You know, you can feel it for the stands. You know, at 1-0. So the Rangers were well in control of the game. You know, St Johnstone weren't offering anything, but in any football game, a free kick into the box, a corner, an own goal, or something like that can happen. But the second goal sort of calmed everybody down a bit, and they'll just take the result. It's one of the ones after it. Take the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you think no Cantwell. And of course, I've been singing the praises of James Tavernier. He's come in for a bit of stick, but he put a beautiful ball in for Danilo for the goal, and deserves a bit of credit for that. He's usually one of those guys, when people look back, I don't know many right backs. Can you think of many right backs?
Scored as many goals.
It's about 104, 105 goals. He's
incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I also look at some of his defending as well, which isn't great. But you've also got to say that Golson's got to cover him on that side as well. It's like we were talking about Andy Robertson earlier on, bombing forward all the time.
Yeah.
Big man, big Van Dijk's behind him.
Did you ever have a player? I'm going to ask you this: if you were playing for Wraith Rovers and you had a player that scored 104 goals, he was a right back and he was just slightly weak and gets caught out in the back line, would you be giving him pelters?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I would like to think they'd be winning things as well. So I think if you look back at Tavernier's time at Rangers, he's won the league, he's won a cup. He's lived there 8-9 years. I think the Rangers fans maybe think they should be winning a wee bit more than 2 trophies.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're looking for people in the firing line, Ruffy, I've got about 9 or 10 people in front of them.
Yeah, and Ali's touched that. I just can't get my head around it. Rangers are on the front foot most games that they're playing. They're playing with a back three, with Barisic on one side and Tavernier on the other, who are bombing forward. It's up to these left-sided centre-half and the right-sided centre-half, whichever one of the two are bombing forward, saying, I'll just take a step out here and I'll just cover that space. So any sensible team, when they get possession, they're going to put the ball into that space. So I'll just read it ahead of it and cover for my guy who's charging forward. I think it's not rocket science. I just don't understand why teams don't do it.
Yeah, I just got to ask you guys, just before we hear from some of the managers after an interesting afternoon in the Scottish Premiership, European football dominates our thoughts this week. Ruffy, Feyenoord against Celtic on Tuesday. That's the start of the campaign. This is where I feel a number of people will start to look seriously at Brendan Rodgers and the job he's doing, because quite simply, in my mind, unless somebody is going to tell me I'm wrong, he's brought back to do something in European football, not necessarily at Champions League level.
I think he's been brought back and has had a wee bit of a shock of what he's come back to. I think because Celtic had won the treble, he's thought he's come back to some right good players. But when he's come back, he's now sussed a lot of them out, and he's now, I think, in the mind of, I've not got better players in Champions League.
Yeah.
Probably maybe not as good.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But
should he have then chapped the door and said, wait a
He
minute?
should have battered the door.
Yeah.
And said, hey, what's the point in having 30, 40, 50 million in the bank? You know, these supporters deserve better. They're travelling everywhere we go. They're hanging on in there. They don't want to be going to Champions League and getting beat 4 and 5 and 6 nothing. I don't think that will happen this time, because I don't think they're playing against the quality that we saw, the Barcelonas and the Real Madrids and that. So I think he's just been given an eye-opener of this is a bigger job than I thought it was going to be. You can tell by his body language. He's coming out talking about individual players, you know, talking about, you know, I need a better this, I need a better that, I need a better this, you know. So this game at the midweek against Feyenoord will be an eye-opener.
Yeah.
You know, I don't envision them going there and getting beat 4, 5, 6 nothing.
Do you envisage them going there and winning?
No, I don't.
No?
You don't. I envision them trying to get a draw at it for some...
Do you think they can finish second or third?
I said that the last time as well, and I was disappointed.
What, you think
know,
they can finish second?
Yeah, I do.
I think third is a realistic target for Celtic in this group. But I have to look at the games, and I'm saying, where is the away result coming from that could get them third? On the basis that they do have some good positive results at home. I don't know where it's coming, Ali.
I think teams love going to Celtic Park to play against them there as well. You know, I just think Celtic play open, attractive, fast-flowing football. Well, they did under Brendan. It needs to be different, because the last time he tried that in Europe, Ruffy, they get whacked. So, I mean, like Ruffy said, I can't believe when he come back up to Celtic that I was waiting this couple of English guys doing the Premiership, maybe the bottom half, or a couple of guys coming in, and it didn't happen. It was still the Asian market. So Ruffy's right. No, he's not got the quality there. He's even put a good player, David Turnbull, back in, but he's come out of nowhere back into the team.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, he's going to have to orchestrate either result on Tuesday, you know, that gets him a point. And hope that he's got a really good home for him, and then you've got Lazio and Atletico Madrid to try and get a point away from home, or even more. If he comes up with
just the names are rhyming off.
Well, I was just about to say, if he comes up with a surprise result, great. I'll tell you one thing though, it won't be him that gets the pelters that's coming.
No.
I think for a club that's spent absolutely nothing on players, they've balanced the books and they've got £100 million that's going to be in that bank by the time you get to January, with the season ticket money, with the Champions League money, with the money that they've got from Jota, with the other money that they've managed to generate along the way from sponsorship. There's a lot of money in there, and the Jota deal alone paid for all the other signings. Now there will be a bit of accounting to say, by the way, we've signed this guy in another long-term deal and this guy in another long-term deal. The only problem I would suggest to you is these are the guys that are signing long-term deals that couldn't cut it in Europe last season.
And what I will add as well, Ruffy, is that Dutch football's a lot better, I think, better than Scottish Premier League. So there's a lot of good teams in that Dutch league. No fools.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Rangers Real Betis? Does he go into it with more confidence or a blow looking at the whole Danilo situation?
I don't think Rangers are the final deal either. You know, I think he would admit, you know, there are certain players that he's missing. You know, particularly I don't think at the back he's got a, well, if you're going with Tavernier and going with Barisic as a back four, I think, as I said earlier at the beginning of the show, I thought the boy Lawrence was breath of fresh air. I thought he offered something different. The boy getting injured today is a massive blow. I think he's a big European style footballer. They've not really got that Morelos, they've not got that striker who, well, I say they've got two strikers, but they've not produced that they're going to be the strikers that are going to score goals and win games.
I don't think they've got wingers either.
I like the boy today. I like the boy Matondo, if he can show us he's got 90 minutes in him. It's okay bringing a player like that on with 20-25 minutes to go when people are tired and the game's opened up a wee bit and he comes on with the pace he's got and the ability. I'd like to see him being a 90-minute player, you know, and he might be a big asset.
Yeah, Aberdeen, Thursdays, as well as Rangers. You've got Eintracht Frankfurt against Aberdeen.
Some game to come up into after going to Tynecastle and getting beat 2-0.
Yeah.
I don't really know the standard of German football at this moment in time, but Eintracht Frankfurt, I mean,
it's well above,
we were young boys, and they were one of the teams that you couldn't even pronounce.
Can I just say something to you? It's well above Scotland.
Yes,
that's
I know that. But just Eintracht Frankfurt, right? Because I've not seen them in Europe for maybe a long time. I don't know whether they've done really well in the last 2 seasons to get themselves back up there. Very difficult for Aberdeen. I mean, I don't know what Barry Robson does. What does he do? Does he go and try and sit in, or does he go and try and open up, or he's going to have to work with the players again? He mentioned earlier on, Ruffy, that he had 5 guys at the back there and they couldn't keep hearts out, so he's up against a decent German outfit. Yeah,
absolutely, and they haven't lost a game this season, Ruffy, which is
I think
they have 3 wins, 3 draws. They're in mid-table, and they are clearly in amongst they're a quality league. The Bundesliga is a good league.
I think Bayern managed to get a draw against them. A late goal, I think.
So there you are. That sums it up for Thursday.
It's a good trip.
It's a great place for the fans.
Eintracht Frankfurt, when you were a boy, if you managed to get a strip, the Eintracht Frankfurt.
Well, do you remember the old one?
You must have played against players.
Oh, you remember Real Madrid way back in, what was it?
60.
Real Madrid 60. It was iconic, wasn't it? The sort of it was a maroony sort of with a white sleeve.
Yeah.
And it had the lacy top one.
Yeah. Well, it's a great name from the past. But it certainly has a pedigree now that's going to cause Aberdeen problems, and it could be more problems for Barry Robson on that front. They've got Bochum a little later on, and then Aberdeen coming up on Thursday. We will follow all of the European football, and hopefully you can enjoy it as well with us. We'll be conducting an insight into the teams that they're playing on our social media. Don't forget, you can follow that. As far as today is concerned in the Scottish Premiership, as far as the Scottish Premiership results are concerned, here's how it all looks. It was St Johnstone 0, Rangers 2, Celtic 3, Dundee 0, Hearts 2, Aberdeen 0, Kilmarnock 2, Hibs 2, great game there at Rugby Park, Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1, and Ross County 1, Livingston 1. Here's a look at the table in the Scottish Premiership. Ruffy, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, obviously St Mirren are the surprise package. You have to say Motherwell being up there as well. Second and third, it's not the second and third we all thought it was going to be. Aberdeen are the big one, Hibs as well, down at the bottom. You would expect them to be in that second or third. But I think Livingston and Ross County will be relatively pleased about where they are at this precise moment in time. I do worry about St Johnstone. Again, I've got Dundee in there as well, but the next 2 or 3 weeks, the picture I think will be a wee bit plainer.
I can tell you this right now, St Mirren and Motherwell last season, before Stuart Kettlewell came in, we were looking and thinking they could be heading to the trap door. Now look at them.
We done the game against, was it St Johnstone?
Yeah.
Was it a young boy Montgomery, left back, was outstanding for
dire.
And we couldn't believe it. I think it was Stephen's last game before Stuart came in, so against St Mirren this time last year. So No, I think it just shows you how important they are. When you look at the league table, how some of these late goals have been. I mean, because Hibs could have been above Kilmarnock, and obviously St Mirren, who've got the result for part of the day. If Motherwell had getting out of that game, they'd been level with Celtic.
See, when you're St Mirren and you're Motherwell there and you're the manager there, you've got to be realistic and say, we're not going to be there at the end, let's just enjoy it. At the beginning of the season, let's just enjoy the good run that we're on, because they're going to have a middle bit where they're not going to win games, they're a bit at the end where they're not going to win games. So if you've got these points in the bag at the start, enjoy every minute of it, because you know there's going to be a time when you're not going to win games.
You mentioned earlier, I think both of you mentioned earlier on how important it is to have a top talisman in your team, or a top player. These guys are turning up every week, the new Ruffy. The Motherwell players, every one of them's putting the whole thing behind Stuart Kettlewell, and the St Mirren players are doing the same for Stephen Robinson. There's going to be a time when their form's going to dip. So you're looking for somebody to carry you a wee bit, and I don't think they've got that player in their team.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, with St Mirren on 11 points and Motherwell on 10, and they were only in game 5, Ruffy, with those two with 11 and 10 points in the bag, what's the magical figure for the end of season to avoid being in the bottom 2?
Well, as I said earlier, I mean, the quarter result so far is magnificent. You know, the quarter game, they'll be sitting there going fantastic. Do
you want to know what the figure is?
To not be in the bottom 2?
Anything from 38 points upwards.
You're safe.
You're safe.
Is that last season's figures?
That's exactly what I'm just telling you right now.
So if they go into my scenario,
so Ross County's 34 points.
If you go to my scenario, then you work the league on 4 quarters.
Yeah.
What do you need a quarter? Average a quarter to get 38.
Well,
do you know what I mean? If you work it on quarters.
Yeah, well, you need an average of 9.
9. So they're only 2 points ahead of that.
They've still got a bit to go, but
they've still got a bit to go, so they've got to keep up that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're well ahead of it. I mean, they've got 4 games to go way out in front of that. You know, and obviously they're going to have a rocky point. We all know that.
A bad patch.
But Ross County had 34 points last season. Dundee United had 31, and they were relegated. I reckon on average, if I look back over all the league positions, the average is round about 37, 38 to keep you safe.
Right, okay.
And then anything below that is usually relegated.
Well, you get managers looking at that, aren't you? We need to get above 40 points.
Yeah.
But what I would say to that, Peter, was, see if you're sitting at the bottom, Ruffy, and you've played 6-7 games and you've still got 2 points, like Aberdeen, like St Johnstone, where do you find the 4 wins in a row?
And here is season 2021. Kilmarnock, 36 points relegated. Hamilton, 30 points relegated. So the average is always 37 upwards. If you can bag 37 points, you're not in the playoff, you're safe.
Can you see Rangers and Celtic pulling away in the top 2 and being that so many points ahead of the rest of the teams this season?
Well,
it's tight at the moment after 5 games.
I have to say, I think, you know, I know it's early days and there could be a change of manager, there might not be. Michael Beale might get on a run domestically. I don't think he's going to get on a run in Europe, but I think Celtic are going to win it minimum roughly 10 points. I think they'll win the league. And that's just an observation on where they are financially, the quality that they've got on their squad, the depth they've got on their squad. If he suddenly gets this team playing the way that we envisage for a top coach, and that's what he is, I don't see Rangers catching them.
And do you see that 25, 30 points to everybody else?
Well, I was hoping this season that we were going to get...
Looking at the league just now, we're hoping that teams are going to maybe be challenging. After Kelly especially...
Yeah, you don't want Rangers and Celtic to be 30 points, 35 points, clear everybody else. You want somebody to come out the pack and put up a couple of good shows, you know, to make that deficit. But I think you're right, you know, Celtic have got 3 or 4 players have just signed we haven't seen yet. I think one of them got 10-15 minutes a day. We've not saw the boy for Benfica yet.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got the window in January. And if you would like to think, I mean, I'm not saying the Celtic board do that all the time, you would think if they need to spend some of that millions that you're talking about, that would be the time.
Well, they won't spend millions, but what they will do is they'll play their usual game of poker, and they'll look
depending on where they are in Europe,
exactly,
and depending on how many points they are ahead. If they are ahead of Rangers, that's when they think, oh, we don't need to spend 25 million, 20 million. That's what they do. That's what they do.
And again, you can only look at the evidence, and the evidence suggests quite simply, Ruffy, that you've got, even from 2021, Hibs, when Rangers won the league in 2021, Hibs were 40 points behind them, and they were in third place.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen over the last 2 or 3 years have been the biggest disappointment than anything. There was a year, I mean, you tell me the year when we had Aberdeen sitting second top and they were a game away for going top. And they blew it somewhere.
Yeah, Ronnie Dyler's years.
And then it just disintegrated. But that made the league a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
When you had an Aberdeen or a Hibs or a Hearts up there taking points off Rangers and Celtic, it made it healthy.
Well, if you're talking about quarters, Ruffy, Aberdeen were 40 points. In fact, 42 points behind Celtic last season, and they were third.
Well,
that's not healthy.
It's not healthy for them. And that's when you're talking about TV deals and you're looking at all this stuff across Europe. Big companies are not going to come in and just, go, that's only Rangers and Celtic. They're going to look at the whole table. If there's a challenge, if another team can pop up one season and win a cup, just to break up the dominance, it's going to help Scottish football.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see that quality, and we only have to look at what's happening in European football. I know sometimes it can seem negative, but we try and deal with the facts on the programme. You can give us your view as well. You can hit the subscribe button. You'll get the managers and players' reactions right across the board on our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts as well. You'll get all the reaction on the managers and players in the Scottish Premiership. We'll also have interviews from the English Premier League after a day of drama, and late winners in the English Premier League as well. And if you download the PLZ Soccer app, then you'll get all the breaking stories and the news from the weekend at your fingertips on PLZ Soccer's app in the Google Play and in the App Store as well. But don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. On a day of drama in the English Premier League and, of course, in the Scottish Premier League, wins for Celtic and Rangers, Hearts getting a confident 2-0 win, and Kilmarnock, I think, probably, if we look at the story and see the goals, Ruffy, I think Kilmarnock will be well pleased, because there were 2 goals down, and then somehow they managed to get themselves back in it with Vassell and Wright.
Yeah, I think they needed to get themselves back in it. Obviously, the bad home result against Ross County, the last game, the supporters wouldn't have been particularly happy, and then obviously going down 2-0 today, they wouldn't have been happy with that either. But they'll be happy with the fight back, and they've shown that they can come back from that kind of deficit. I said at the beginning of the show, I didn't think they had 2 goals in them. Proved me wrong, but it just shows you, once you get that first goal, the momentum to get the second one is there. And again, I think it's Hibs that have let themselves down rather than Kilmarnock that have got something out of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we must praise Stephen Robinson at St Mirren.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what a run. I mean, I think he was the only. I think Stuart Kettlewell was well on his way to winning 5-6 games in a row as a Motherwell manager.
Yeah.
I think the last manager to do it was Stephen Robinson at Motherwell. So it just shows you how good a manager he is, and you're no surprised when he gets mentioned at other clubs. You're no surprised. He seems to get a camaraderie, what we were talking about earlier on, Ruffy. Guys in the dressing room like playing for him, and once you've got that, then you're getting the results.
Yeah, I'm looking at St Mirren's results. They've only lost 1 match, Ruffy, and that was against Montrose at the start of the season in a League Cup match. They've only lost 1 match.
It's amazing.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely amazing. Obviously, he targets himself when he comes up against Rangers and Celtic. That's the judge. He'll be looking at the players, okay, they might not win the game, but they'll come out of the game with a bit of credit, and the players will take the benefit of that and move on to the other games. But great to be in a club that's in a run like that.
Yeah.
He's another manager as well that the fans have bought right into, haven't they? They get right behind him. You've sent me there a couple of times, and the atmosphere's fantastic, Ruffy. Brilliant.
Yeah, he's an infectious character. I really like him as a manager and as a person. What about managers that obviously had a point to prove today at Tynecastle? It was Stephen Naismith.
And we make the right decision when we win the ball and play forward. We cause teams problems because we've got real quality, and I think that showed today. And then the biggest thing for the day for me is that it was a real collective thing. That some of the subs that came on have not had loads of minutes, they found it tough, but they come on, they do really well, and they impact the game. And I think in the time I've took with the games I've been in charge of, I think it's probably the most comfortable I've been at the end of a game when it is still alive with it being 2-0.
Yeah, well, he is happy. He just hasn't told his story yet. Stephen will be delighted. I mean, I love him to death, but you can tell the pressures on the manager. He was desperate to get the win.
I think what he said there is really telling, isn't it? He says it's the most comfortable we've been. That shows you how far ahead they were at Aberdeen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to Tynecastle, because the man who watched that great game was Patrick Mullen. Patrick, well deserving. Were you impressed with Hearts?
Peter, I was thoroughly impressed with Hearts. I think that's the best I've seen them play all season. They completely dominated Aberdeen from start to finish. And if this is the football that Stephen Naismith is going to play this season, then the Hearts fans can definitely be excited.
Yeah, what was the standout player for you in that game?
I'd have to say Kai Rolls at the back. They just look so solid. Like, I don't know if it was Aberdeen created nothing, or if it was just Kai Rolls and his defence at the back. They just dominated Aberdeen again from start to finish. Like, it sounds like a broken record, but Aberdeen were just so poor today, and they made Hearts look really promising.
And with that in mind, Patrick, you know the way this works as far as Scottish football is concerned. What was the reaction from the Aberdeen fans? Because they usually bring a really good travelling support. They will not be happy to be second bottom of the table. Do you get the sense that not only the anger from the fans, but Barry Robson's under a bit of pressure here?
Yeah, I think Barry Robson's under an incredible amount of pressure. He says that the team just needs time to gel, but they don't have that time. They've got something like 6 or 7 games in the next 22 days. So they're going to have these difficult matches. They're over to Frankfurt on Thursday night, bringing 3,000 fans. And the fans that were in here today were absolutely furious. The Aberdeen players went over to applaud them for them making the trip down to the capital, but they were booing them at full time, and they were not happy with the display their team put out today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Patrick Mullen out there watching that game. Hearts impressive. Great to hear from Patrick as Hearts win that match by 2-0. Big questions there in the Aberdeen board, and Dave Cormack will undoubtedly sit down with Barry Robson and say, okay, how is this going to change? What can you do to alter this poor start to the season? Because we certainly looked and thought that we were going to be looking at Aberdeen and Hibernian up there in that top end, but they've got work to do, Ruffy. I think that's the story of this afternoon and since the start of the season.
No, I thought they'd be wanting a better European run. I think after the result in Hacken, you know, they all come back very buoyant from that. I know they came from 2-0 down, but in football terms, they'd be certainly looking at winning the second leg. They'd be looking at getting into the group stage. All that hasn't happened, so pressure is mounting. You know, the European game, if they were going to a European game and get turned over quite heavily, I don't think the supporters would be too happy with that either.
Yeah, well, okay, let's assess then how we think it's going to go through the week. And don't forget that Neil Lennon will be with us here in the studio to talk football on Monday's football show. Adam Binney will be in the hot seat on Monday with Ruffy, as well as Alison McConnell and Neil Lennon, looking at the European fixtures and looking back over the weekend's Scottish Premiership results. Ali,
yeah,
it's a big week of European football. Feyenoord, Celtic, first of all, how do you see that going?
I think Celtic will find it very difficult. I think Dutch football's on the up. I think if they get a draw, it'd be a fantastic result. But I think Feyenoord will fancy their chances strongly.
I share Ali's view on that, Ruffy. What do you think?
Yeah, again, I think a draw would be fantastic, but as Rangers proved when they go into European football, it's another level. I think Celtic will experience the same. They'll be coming up against a team that they haven't really come up against this year, and unfortunately I don't think the Celtic defence is where they want it to be. I think the big players are missing, and I can't see them winning the game.
Yeah, great memories for Lots of Celtic fans travelling to Italy in the 1970 European Cup final to take on Feyenoord with high hopes of adding the second European Cup. It didn't quite work out on that occasion, despite the fact that Celtic led by a Tommy Gemmell goal, but they were pegged back into injury time, extra time, and of course then Feyenoord got that all-important winner to secure their first European Cup, and the memories of that still haunt more than a few Lisbon Lions down through the years. But that's the glamour of the two of them getting back together, Ruffy. It's hard to believe, Celtic at that point and Rangers were in the latter part of so many European tournaments and finals.
I mean, that's the history of both of the clubs. It's the history that the supporters hang on to. That's why they need to be in this competition. They need to be in the top conditions because they've got as big a history as everybody else.
Okay, Rangers against Real Betis. Home game, place bouncing, Thursday, Europa League. How do you see Rangers faring? Michael Beale?
I think today's result was a big positive for them. I think they'll get into the game a lot better than, if they were struggling a wee bit. It's gave them a lift. Unfortunately, the striker's out. I think he would have definitely 100% started. Betis, don't know too much about them, but they're company. These teams now relish the atmosphere, Peter. Relish it. I'm going to go for a draw in that game.
Yeah?
Yes, I think there'll be a draw.
Ruffy?
Yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out and say Rangers will win it 2-1.
Okay, I think I might veer towards a draw with you, Ali, on that. Eintracht Frankfurt Aberdeen, I can only see one outcome, a win for Eintracht.
Yep, so can I. I just hope it's not a heavy one. It's a good performance, but not a win.
Yep, okay. That's our assessment of European football. If you want to stay up to date with it, then by all means, stay with us. Download the PLZ Soccer app. You'll get live video content. You'll get breaking football news. If you're on our website, you'll get all the stories and lots more content there. If you're on our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and you'll get all sorts of unique video content, including up-to-date regular news bulletins, the football show Monday and Friday, the women's football show. We also have Kerry Pollock's preview of Scottish Premiership football with Tam and Ruffy, and we've got Straight Talk and the Journals programme. So much content, including managers and players offering you their thoughts pre and post match in Scottish football. In the Premiership today, it finished with Rangers with a 2-0 win over St Johnstone at McDermott Park. Celtic comfortable at home, the champions top of the table with a 3-0 win over Dundee. Hearts, Stevie Naismith has the bragging rights in that battle at Tynecastle against Aberdeen. They won by 2-0. It looked as if Nick Montgomery was going to get his first win in his first game as Hibs manager. They were 2-0 up, but Kelly pegged them back to 2-2. Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1. The Saints just keep marching on with Stephen Robinson tucked in nicely behind Celtic in second position. What a start to the season for Saints. And then Ross County 1, Livingston 1. Looked as if Malky Mackay was going to celebrate 3 points until an equaliser from David Martindale's side got them a point up there at Dingwall. That's the story of it here in the Scottish Premiership. Join us on Monday if you can, and don't forget to download the PLZ Soccer app. Great to have Ali with us, great to have Ruffy here. Have a great weekend from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.